57th Governor's Cup, the oldest and most prestigious international youth match racing championship in the world. I'm Tom Ehman alongside Andy Rose and Matt Whitfield. And out on the water on the roving boat again this year, we have Tom Spithill from Australia, the esteemed coach and yacht racer. Andy Rose alongside me here doing play-by-play is the two-time winner of the GovCup, Matt Whitfield, from the UK originally, now living here in the States, also a veteran match racer and an alum of the GovCup. And a fabulous day, Andy Rose, out here on your home waters of Newport Beach.
It took a long time for Summer to get here, Tom, down here, but it seems to have finally arrived. My only concern is a little bit, it's pretty light. Now, having said that, as we often say, and I think all the sailors would agree, these boats were designed to be able to have fair racing in this condition, which is probably about 5 knots. So of any of the boats used in these type of regattas worldwide, these are probably the best for this kind of condition.
We're aboard Adios, the media boat we've been using for many, many years, belonging to Commodore Peter Bretschger and Kari Bretschger. We're about 100, what, Matt Whitfield, 150 meters from the starting line as we can have a look at the race committee boat. We are already in the starting sequence for what is flight 20 would be the proper word, flight 20 of the round robin phase. 3 more rounds robin today, 20, 21, 22. Then the top 4 boats will matriculate, Andy, that's a good Stanford word, matriculate into the semifinals, first to win 3 of 5. We'll watch that racing this afternoon, at least the first 2 of the 2 semifinal matches. Matt Whitfield, what do you think? Looking up the track here, do you like the left or the right?
I think across the course, left to right, it looks relatively even right now. I think early in the day, you'd be thinking you want to defend the left. There's often going to be a little bit of left pressure and a lift on the port ley line coming in, so I'd probably err on the side of left. So probably want to lead back into that pin end, which is the yellow buoy, which is quite a short start line.
In the first match now, as they're sailing toward us here on the media boat, we've got Josh Hyde from New Zealand, who is not guaranteed mathematically into the semis, but we think he's probably going to make it. He is racing against Jeffrey Peterson, who's on top in the leaderboard, will be definitely going forward into the semis along with Cole Tapper of Australia, Andy.
Indeed, Jeffrey Peterson is having a great regatta. He has lost one race, but has really pretty much dominated every other race. So this is an important race for Josh Hyde. He has the edge in points right now to get into the semis, but as Tom said, it's by no means a sure thing. On the other hand, if he can beat Jeffrey here, that'll be a great momentum builder for the.
Yeah, and you can see Jeffrey Peterson and his crew are really trying to slow it up, trying to lead into that pin, backing the main all the way up to try and give as much disturbed air onto Josh Hyde and his team's boat to try and slow him down.
How much time, guys and gals? There's the 1 minute.
Okay, there's 1 minute. You can see the boats very nicely on our screen from the drone. With about a minute to go, they're only about 10 seconds once they get going to the line. So what Hyde is trying to do is push Jeffrey over the line. What Jeffrey's trying to do, obviously, is to prevent him from doing that.
Sailing with Jeffrey is Daniel Pegg and Enzo Mendito. Enzo sailed with him last year. Daniel Pegg is new on the project, and Josh Hyde from New Zealand has with him, when I can get my list up here, where's Josh Hyde? And Tom Pilkington, Zach Fong, and Cody Coughlin. 15 seconds.
Yeah, Jeffrey did a really good job there of getting the boats really, really slow, killing time. However, the key now is to get going fast. Josh Hyde's done a really good job of going fast towards this committee boat and getting out of it.
For our viewers, the starting line obviously is that yellow pin mark at the bottom of your screen and the red flag, an orange flag actually, on the race committee boat. And off they go. Flight 20.
You could see Jeffrey and his team tack with about 1 or 2 seconds to go. because they want to get left and get the pin end start. They did a really good job of leading in, buying the time to get there. So now it's just a speed race, and who's got the best shift and pressure.
And here comes Jeffrey back to, which I think is wise. This kind of condition in a match race, I just am not a believer in big splits. So he's still in touch, but it's a pretty big difference between Josh Hyde and Jeffrey now.
You can see on the shot the two orange marks. That's the downwind gate. That's the end of leg 2. They're on leg 1 right now with Chris Bretschger's course diagram up on the screen. They go windward to a top mark there, round it to starboard, meaning leaving it on their starboard or right side, back downwind to the gate that they've just sailed past. Then through the gate, they can round either end, go back upwind to the windward mark for a second time, and then finally back to the finish line. Shall we go out to Tommy Spithill out on the roving boat? Check in with Tom Spithill.
Yeah, morning Tom, Andy and Matt. Just watched a nice pre-start again from Jeffrey. It's pretty impressive how he's able to kill speed but not get hooked, as we say, by the other boat, not end up getting hooked or forced up above the line.
Oh, we lost him.
Got some audio to sort out there with Tom. Tom, we lost you there, but we'll come back to you in a second. Tom will be with us all weekend, of course, watching this close racing, Andrew.
So you can see there Josh Hyde crossing on starboard with the, on boat 6. He came out that line really fast on port and then must have got a little bit of pressure and right-hand shift to get like a 2-boat length lead.
It'll be interesting to see. He's actually letting Jeffrey go. Is he tacking now?
Yeah, as he does a covering
now.
tack.
Yep. So Josh benefited from being to the right there, but as you can see, the boats are very close. Jeffrey's only about a half a boat length behind him.
Andy, how much breeze is there? And you've sailed in these waters all your life, just off Newport Beach here in the Pacific Ocean. Do you like the right or the left strategically, tactically?
I agree with Matt. You'd probably favor the left bore in the morning in the light air, but Josh certainly did very well going to the right there. But I think Jeffrey's starting to pull out a little bit. Jeffrey's still behind, but boy, not by much.
Matt, all week in the rounds robin racing, we've seen Jeffrey with superb boat speed and boat handling. Do you think that will prevail again this year?
I think that's one of the key things in match racing is you're going to get races where you do well, where you do badly, but the close races are defined by boat-on-boat tactics, which is boat handling and boat speed, how you can exit those things from slow to fast on the pre-starts at windward marks. I think that's kind of the key to win those 50-50 races, which you can see Jeffrey and his team have done a really good job of sailing high and fast and gone from crossing behind Josh Hyde to now almost get an attack in front, which they might even have before this port hand lay line for that yellow mark.
Yeah, I think they've got a bit of a lefty. In other words, the wind has shifted a bit to the left, which gives the advantage to Jeffrey Peterson, the boat at the bottom part of your screen.
Because he is on the left.
Because he is on the left. Josh is still trying to hang in there. Josh right now is his best chance is to hold Jeffrey out. Oh, here comes Jeffrey. He may think he can cross, and if he can, he's away, and indeed he can. So Josh's only chance there was to close cross though, but his only chance was to prevent Jeffrey from tacking, holding him out past the lay line, meaning the most direct route on port tack to the mark, and he was unable to do that and let Jeffrey get away.
And in that cross, as our racing sailors who are viewers today will know, the boat with the wind coming over its starboard or right side, which was, in this case, Josh, has the right-of-way, but Jeffrey, the giveaway boat with the wind coming over his port or left side, had to give way, and he did keep clear as he rounds the top mark for the first time.
Well, and also a perfect lay line. In other words, he didn't waste any extra distance or extra tacks. He had a perfect lay line there. So what went from being behind halfway up the leg, he now has a nice lead of 3 or 4 boat lengths. So very impressive by Jeffrey Peterson, but that's what you'd expect.
And a very good set by Josh Hyde, though, to try and keep it as close as possible. He's going to try and soak inside and try and throw disturbed air onto Jeffrey Peterson's sails.
Let's go out to Tommy Spithill.
Yeah, Tom. Morning, Matt and Andy. We just had the set here at the top mark, and Jeffrey was signalling to the umpires. He thought Hyde Spinnaker may have hit the top mark as he hoisted. And from where I was, it looked pretty close, but the umpires didn't award any penalty, so at this stage it's still game on. But yeah, Peterson certainly going quick through the water.
Like all of modern match racing, we have on-the-water umpires, which are become a fixture in modern match racing. And Tom Ehman was one of the founders of that at the Congressional Cup, I believe.
Indeed, 1988.
It makes a big difference. It used to be if there was a potential penalty or one of the boats claimed a foul on the other one, you'd have to go to a protest committee after you got in from sailing, and they would decide. Well, needless to say, we had many regattas where you don't know who's won because there's a protest.
So here the key is Josh Hyde's trying to get dirty wind from his spinnaker onto Jeffrey Peterson. So you can see Josh Hyde with the yellow spinnaker is sitting out quite a long way away from the boat, and Jeffrey Peterson's, the blue spinnaker, is a little bit wobbly. It's coming in and out a little bit, implying that Josh Hyde is giving him a little bit of dirty breeze, and he'll be able to close that gap up and get a really, really good chance to roll or jibe before and lead Jeffrey Peterson back into the marks if he does a good jibe.
He's done a nice job here, especially against Jeffrey. I've said now, watching Jeffrey match race, Jeffrey Peterson in a lot of these, that I would not want to be 2 boat lengths ahead of Jeffrey at the weather mark, because Jeffrey has shown a great ability in getting downwind very quickly. And now they've evened out a little bit there. It looked to me like Josh maybe got a sailing a little higher and got a puff, but still very close. And here goes Josh Hyde jibing onto port. Jeffrey will follow, and that's what he's doing to stay between him and the mark.
Andy, why does the boat astern on these downwind legs, they're now going downwind on leg 2, why does that boat astern sometimes have an advantage?
Well, it's basically blocking the wind to a certain extent from getting to the sails of the boat ahead. So generally, the boat behind is going to gain, and here's our chart on that, which is great. You see that those triangular things are the wind shadows, so you can see that if you position your boat right, you can throw that shadow onto the other boat and slow them down. But Jeffrey's done a great job. That's why Jeffrey jibed simultaneously there, or a simo jibe, because he didn't want Josh to be able to climb onto his air.
And there, Matt, is the leeward gate. How does the leeward gate work?
So you have to go in a straight line between the 2 marks, and then you can turn left or right around either side of them. So they're both going around the right-hand gate here, so they're both exiting on port. Jeffrey Peterson with a really good drop and extending away with maybe a 3 boat length lead.
Are you surprised they both rounded the same end of the gate?
It's one of those things where it gives you the option to overtake. If you go the other way and you get a lucky shift, or you see some pressure coming down, you can gain. However, in that situation, Josh Hyde would have had to sail more distance to get round the other gate, so he'd have lost another 2 boat lengths to achieve that. So keep it close and hope you can get the next leg.
Tommy Spithill on the roving boat checking in.
Yeah, Tom, it's interesting here. I think Hyde really lost out a lot there coming in to the bottom mark low and slow. So Jeffrey came in and actually did an extra jibe just to keep his boat moving, where Hyde just tried to make it in one maneuver without jibing. So he came around low and slow, and instantly we saw a 4 to 6 length boat length lead open up for Peterson and his team.
We have other matches going on. We're going to cover the Peterson-Hyde match because they do look like they will both be in the semis. For sure, Jeff Peterson, probably Josh Hyde. The others in contention are from Australia, last year's runner-up. Jeffrey, of course, won last year and also in 2021, but last year's runner-up, Andy Cole Tapper, is also mathematically through to the semis.
You can see here Jeffrey has a really nice lead now. It's doing what we call a very loose cover. You want to stay between the other boat and the wind direction, but you don't need to tack as many times or directly on them. He's just protecting now his lead. Even if there's a bit of a shift, he still will be ahead. So it's better to give up slight amount of your lead and be sure you keep the lead than it is to do something, go the wrong way, basically.
And one thing that you can notice from the 2 different boats is Jeffrey Peterson sailing with a slightly tighter leech on his mainsail going upwind. So
what's the leech, Matt?
the back of the sails. So there's three sides of the sail: the luff, which is the front, the foot, which is the bottom, and the leech, which is the back edge. And Jeffrey Peterson's got a slightly straighter leech, so it twists off less at the top. And he's really been able to gain on that first upwind, and then he's been able to extend on this second upwind. So that potentially is one of the differences in the speed. Tommy, what do you think about that?
Tommy's still collecting his thoughts. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear at this point. You know, we believe it's been true all 3 days so far that Jeffrey does have a little speed advantage, and I think most of his competitors would say that. He's sailing very light. The way this works, you can have 3 or 4 sailors up to a certain weight limit, which I think is 570 pounds, and you can go right up to it, or you can choose to have with 4 people, or you can choose to have 3 people at a less weight. And Jeffrey is sailing at about 100 pounds under the maximum weight limit. So in the light, that will be an advantage. 100 pounds on a boat that isn't very heavy anyway is a big deal, and you can see that happening here. He's just sailing away with this.
And Josh Hyde does have 4 people on, so he's pretty much on the weight limit. So he's, you can really see the difference in speed that it makes, Andy, like you said.
Again, Jeffrey Peterson sailing with Daniel Pegg and Enzo Mendito. Enzo also at Georgetown University, as is Jeffrey. They are collegiate colleagues in the uni sailing in this country, which is a big deal. It's much bigger in this country, with the possible exception of Canada and a little bit in the UK and Ireland and so on. But a strong team that have done well together, particularly, as Andy was saying, in this regatta. And sailing with Josh Hyde, who's age 20. Jeffrey's will be 23 shortly, and that's the top age limit when you age out. So it's Jeffrey's last year, not Josh Hyde's. Was sailing with Josh Hyde is Tom Pilkington, Zach Fong, and Cody Coughlin, sailing 4 up, again, as Andy just mentioned.
And I know Jeffrey has thought a lot about that. He was still considering, well, should I take the 4th person or what? But I think he looked at the weather report, and while not all weather reports are perfect, the general gist of all the weather reports from the various models was that it would be fairly light, like 5 to 8 knots. And if it continues that today and tomorrow, then Jeffrey has made exactly the right choice.
Coming downhill now, downwind, but we say downhill euphemistically on leg 4. Jeffrey Peterson with a comfortable lead over Josh Hyde. And when they get to the semis, assuming Josh gets to the semis as well, and we think he will, the leader coming out of the rounds robin, which presumably, though not necessarily, will be Jeffrey Peterson. It could be Cole Tapper. They get to choose which of the other 3 semifinalists they race in their first to win 3 semifinals.
Well, we assume that perhaps Jeffrey will choose Josh Hyde if that transpires and Josh gets in. But you never know. In a Ficker Cup, I think last year, the year before, Jeffrey chose to sail against Chris Weiss instead of Nicole Briot, who he had never lost to Nicole in any match race, and yet he chose Chris and ended up losing to Chris in the semifinals.
You can see the mountains there behind us here. Tommy Spithill, are you coming through?
Yeah, I'll talk to him.
Checking his mic.
I have all the feed to my mom.
Okay, we are out here on the Pacific Ocean, one of the few television teams that actually goes live from the water instead of a sound booth somewhere out in the world. And you can see these beautiful pictures that Chris Bretschger and his all-volunteer team here at Balboa Yacht Club are producing for us once again this year. The shore is behind us, Newport Beach, and literally the beach is about, 250 meters behind us. Beautiful day, probably 75 degrees. What is that, Matt, in Celsius?
25 degrees. That's the easy one.
Gorgeous
75
day.
is 25.
I'm alongside Andy Rose, Tom Ehman alongside Andy Rose, Matt Whitfield. Tommy Spithill, we said, is up on the roving boat. We'll get his camera going, but we are coming to you as you see that beautiful beach shot. Is we're coming to you in 1080p this year. That's full broadcast HD, 1080p, 30 frames a second for you techno nerds. We've been 720p in the past, which is plenty good looking, but Chris Bretschger has upgraded us now to full broadcast, and we are very appreciative of his and his team's efforts.
So Peterson and Hyde are coming towards the finish here. Peterson has developed a huge lead. We would almost call it, we call a horizon job. That will have interesting psychological effects, or
Indeed.
at least could, on Josh Hyde, who is still a favorite to be a semifinalist. But by losing by that much, it really, you start to wonder, how can we possibly ever, beat somebody that beats us by that much?
Yeah, and if you look at it from the other perspective, from Jeffrey's perspective, he goes, if in 2 hours I got to race this guy again, I'm pretty confident that
Yep.
I have boat speed on him. I started behind, I came through, and I got ahead. So
Yep.
Do you think, Matt, that was all boat speed? Was it not a very tactical race other than covering?
I think 85% of it was boat speed, because the boats were 3 boat lengths apart from each other when Jeffrey went from behind to ahead. It's hard to see how much of that is a big shift, and then once Jeffrey was ahead, he really extended off. So I think most of that was just speed through the water, which, like Andy said, Jeffrey's sailing give or take 100 pounds light. It's light winds, that should be an advantage.
And that's Jeffrey Peterson with the blue and white kite. Again, those of you here in the States who normally would call that a spinnaker, and it's a symmetrical spinnaker, Andy, not an A sail. Jeffrey has won his flight 20 over Josh Hyde of New Zealand. Josh in the yellow kite is coming in behind him. And we got another match here underway.
Is this the one we're covering?
It's a bit of a really 6-ring circus, as we've got 12 teams from around the world here in the rounds robin phase. Each of the teams races each other, so they race 22 total races in the rounds robin. We were looking at Jeffrey Peterson there as they're collecting their kite and thoughts. And now here is the start of a pre-start of a match between boat 1, which is Callahan, Justin Callahan, who is an All-American from Harvard University, the Stanford of the East, Andy, and against Tom Higgins of Ireland in boat 2.
So we'll watch a little bit of the start of this one, but again, this is not a crucial match really, because Tom Higgins is mathematically unable to make the semifinals at this point. Justin, however, needs the win.
Exactly.
Yeah, right now Justin's on the cusp of whether he makes it in or doesn't make it into the semi-finals, so this is a really crucial race for him. There's 1 minute 45 to go. They're about 25 seconds from the starboard end, maybe 45, 50 seconds from the pin end, with Tom Higgins leading in, Justin trying to push in, get the boats closer to the start line.
Sailing with Justin Callahan, they're sailing 4 up, is Trevor Davis, Michaela O'Brien, and Spencer, whom I've spent a lot of time talking with. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. In German, it'd be Kriegstein. It looks like a German name. Spencer Kriegstein sailing from the Biscayne Bay Yacht Club with Justin Callahan. And the other one is Tom Higgins of Ireland. Jamie McMahon, who we had on the stage this morning, Andy, in the morning show at 0900, and Carl Horfeld, the Royal St. George Yacht Club.
Yeah, the breeze, compared to the first pre-start we saw with Peterson and Hyde, the breeze looks like it's dropped a knot or two, just very, very light, really hard to get the boats moving. You can see both teams have been trying really hard to build speed the whole time, just really hard. Once you lose that speed to get it back, it takes a long time to build, as Justin Callahan does a whole circle out.
Now this is interesting. Jibing with less than a minute to go in light air is sometimes fraught with danger. It almost stops the boat.
25 seconds.
But with 25, you may be all right. But boy, I don't know.
A little slow to get
I
it.
think that jibe was a mistake there.
Yeah, I think there, like you said, Andy, tacking onto port as he saw Tom Higgins was not following him, do a nice accelerating tack upwind and then tack back, and you've created your lateral separation without going further away from the start line.
And Justin's going to have to tack again to get out of the bad wind thrown off by Tom Higgins. Yeah, well, Justin escaped a little bit there, but he definitely would have had control of that start And that jibe, it just stops the boat too much. When you're within a minute, I would hardly ever jibe.
Andy, let's talk for a moment about Justin Callahan, because he has not match raced until he got to this regatta for almost a year. He's sailing with a new crew, totally new crew, 4 up from what he did with whom he sailed last year. And on day one, he was croutonnic. I mean, he won one match, lost the other, I can't remember, 6 or 5?
5, yeah, he was 1 and 5.
And then he came back. We called him in the press release the comeback kid, because he won all but one of his matches the second day and had a good day again yesterday.
Yeah, and he's already showing. Tom Higgins went out a little bit to the left there. Justin tacked on a port in a nice little puff, and he's leading Tom to the right. I think Justin's going to be either much closer here, or probably not. He's not ahead yet, but he'll be closer. But he definitely gave up that start, and that's, you know, all these competitors are so good. Even though Tom Higgins has, I believe, only 4 or 5 wins, you know, any boat in any race. So you can't overlook anybody, and that, I think, what Justin did a little bit to start.
Well, you said so in the Monday night show, the Meet the Teams, the opening ceremony, that this is such a tough field that anybody probably can. And indeed, we saw on one of the flights a couple days ago, the local youngest sailor, Sienna Nichols from Balboa Yacht Club, at age 15 beat, it was Josh Hyde, right, in a match. And here's Josh looking like he's going forward, probably, to the semis. And 15-year-old Sienna Nichols, sailing in her first GovCup, beat 20-year-old Josh Hyde.
Well, we're going to hear from Sienna. Sienna has 7 more Governor's Cups that she's eligible for. And I would, if she sticks with it, I would almost guarantee she'll win 1 or 2. If Jeffrey Peterson wins, of course, this year, he would be the first skipper in 57 years to win 3 Governor's Cups. There are 13 of us with 2, but Jeffrey would do that. But with Sienna at that age, I think that record may be short-lived if he, in fact, sets that record.
I'm going to call her steely-eyed, because when I interviewed her up at St. Francis Yacht Club when she was sailing in a match race, a regatta earlier this year, she was very impressive. And then, again, we've seen her this week. We had her on the stage, I think, on one of the morning shows, Andy. And, again, she is smart, tough, strong at age 15, and a steely-eyed, I won't call her a U-boat driver, but a steely-eyed match racer.
Indeed.
Sienna Nichols.
Indeed. Well, she's having a close race out there.
So you can see on the screen here, you see it, Justin Callahan, the boat to leeward, he's sitting a little bit further forward than Tom Higgins, and it looks like he's just clawed back a boat length or 2 in the last couple of minutes. I wonder if he's just got a little bit of that really big wide back of the boat out the water, just reducing the wetted area, able to get a little bit more boat speed.
Yeah, that's crucial in modern boats. Basically, all look something like this. Well, I'll tell you what, that indicates that they may. Are they on the ley line up there, guys?
Guys, I'm just down in the pre-start here watching a great race between Pinkney and Tapper. This is another crucial race here, and just looking at the body language here, you can see Pinkney looks like he's got a bit of pressure on himself. Cole just looks like he's going out for his regular Sunday stroll.
Yeah, Morgan is a very charismatic, bright, funny guy, and after losing a couple races yesterday, he was not in a great mood, but he's still an incredible sailor, and so this should be a tough match.
Just to set the stage for you, this is the last flight here in the last match, rather, in Flight 20. Morgan Pinkney, Newport Harbor Yacht Club in Boat 9, is right on the cusp. He along with Justin Callahan, may make it into the semi. He's got to win this match against Cole Tapper, last year's runner-up, who is guaranteed, is mathematically through to the semis. He is in Boat 10, that is Tapper.
Yeah, there's 25 seconds to go with Morgan Pinkney to leeward and ahead, leading to this pin end with maybe 15 seconds of full speed. He's just got hooked. You can see Cole Tapper coming around the bottom, forcing Morgan Pinkney into attack. So if Cole can keep the speed here and can get away, that's a really, really good move late on. Morgan Pinkney really struggling to build any speed. He's probably going to have to tack to start.
When you tack like that, if you noticed, he had to backwind his jib. In other words, keep the jib on the same side so it would force the bow around, because he was going so slowly he couldn't really turn. And any time you do that, you're going to slow the boat down.
He did well here, Andy, to lay the committee boat on port tack,
Yep.
so he didn't have to sail too far inside his jib. But Cole sees this moment here to put his bow down a little bit, close a bit of gauge, and accelerate down to Pinkney here to try and lock him out.
They're very even right now.
Yeah, I'd say that's about a length gauge.
When Tommy says gauge, or any of the three of us do, that's a good America's Cup terminology, Andy, from the 60s and 70s. That's the distance between the boats. And as he said, about a boat length of gauge, meaning like a train track, the width between the two boats. And you see Morgan Pinkney looking from our camera angle, Tom, like he's pulling forward and starting to squeeze off.
And he did. So
his opponent.
And indeed he did. So Tapper there, Morgan Pinkney was in what we call a lee bow position, where the wind basically hits his sails and bounces up to windward a little bit. So the boat behind starts slowing down. Cole Tapper did exactly the right thing. As soon as that could conceivably start to happen, you tack. You don't hope. You don't stay there, because every moment you're losing a little bit.
Some of us stay there and hope, and then we end up being crotonic and getting shot out the back end and wishing we tacked, 5 boat lengths earlier.
Okay, here's Cole coming back to re-engage. He feels he was headed a little bit and got a little bit of lift on this tack, and so he's right back in the game. And I think he may be able to lee bow Morgan. So what they've done now is they've traded places. So now Cole Tapper is in the favored lee bow position, and Morgan did exactly the right thing by tacking away. So this is as close as it gets.
And they're both in the middle of the course here, so there's even times on port and starboard to get to this top mark. So you'll look to see both of them work the other one to the ley line. However, it's pretty 50-50, so that would be hard for either of them to do too much.
One thing for having to deal with
So you could see there on your screen, Morgan Pinkney sailed through the dirt of the Higgins Callahan race. So the two spinnakers coming downwind, which he's going to lose a little bit of pressure for 5-10 seconds, which maybe is half a boat length loss, which with a race this close, that half a boat length is so key. As Cole Tapper tacks over on a little left-hand shift, he's got some pressure and left-hand shift, and he's going to hope that he can cross coming back clear ahead.
So instead of re-engaging with Morgan right away, Cole chose to stay on starboard tack, and just as Matt said, he would just be waiting. It is shifting a little bit here, so he'd be waiting until it shifts left a little bit and then tack. And if you can figure the geometry out, that basically would give him a few boat lengths, a couple boat lengths more. But we'll see. Here comes the cross.
Yeah, looks
Morgan
like
at the top of your screen coming in on starboard tack.
And Morgan has right of way, so Cole needs to be clear ahead, which it looks like he's managed to gain 2 boat lengths, maybe. So as he's able to, he's probably going to place a tack on Morgan Pinkney's breeze here.
Yeah, especially with what just happened on the left. I think he'll want to protect the left, and that's indeed what he's doing. So if another shift like that were to happen, he will just gain more. And Morgan is staying there a little bit, which indicates that he thinks the left is probably a little better at this moment. Now that could change in a minute or two, but right now Cole has a commanding lead here and a good cover on Morgan.
And Cole Tapper, sailing in boat 10, has been quick all week. He's in second place on the leaderboard, just behind Jeffrey. He's on 17 wins. Jeffrey on 18 wins here in the rounds robin phase. Look at, he's higher and faster right now, and a bit of a lift, or a bit of a righty. And he's also done a nice job positioning himself on the course all week. Cole Tapper.
Yeah, that's pretty dramatic right there. And he is tacking, so he must believe he's on the ley line, which of course is again the straight line on this tack to get to the mark, sailing the least distance possible.
And Morgan, in a match he knows he needs to win, also sailed through the dirt of another match with Justin Callahan, who he needs to gain and overtake, which Callahan is winning. So if you're of a Pinkney persuasion, it's not going too well so far this morning.
Well, there was some alliteration in that, a Pinkney persuasion, Andy.
Yeah. Well, as
he
I
went
said,
to
but
Washington, not to Stanford.
well, but you know, as I've always said, it doesn't matter what someone from Great Britain says; they always sound so authoritative.
So Callahan is leading Higgins in this must-win match for Callahan. Pinkney is trailing Tapper in the must-win match for Pinkney. This could help put Callahan through to the semis if Morgan can't get back in front of Tapper. And right now that's a what? 7 boat length?
Yep.
Tapper with the black or the darker, I guess it's a navy kite out front, and then the purple and white in the back is Morgan Pinkney, and that's a good what? 7 boat lengths bow to bow?
Yeah, and this race really is one that was changed dramatically with a wind shift, because as you remember, the first 2 crosses, one boat lee-bowed the other, and then they went out, retacked, came back, and the other boat had the favored lee-bow position. That other boat, of course, was not Morgan Pinkney. And as they sailed out there, they got headed a little more, and then once they tacked, or right before they tacked, Justin got a huge lift and just was sailing probably 7 or 8 degrees higher than Morgan was, just as fast. Well, this will be disappointing, but Morgan is only 19 and has a number of years here, and he's sailed in already. This is his 4th Governor's Cup, and he was on the podium twice out of the last 3 times in 3rd place. So, you know, he'll be back, and Morgan is such an accomplished sailor in all sorts of sports. He was on the Yale University, skippered in the Yale University team, which lost to Harvard in the, and Justin Callahan at Harvard by 1 point in the sloop intercollegiates in the United States, which, as Tom said, intercollegiates is a big deal here. So all Cole's doing now is just a loose cover, meaning stay between your opponent and the finish line, or in this case, the gates, but you don't have to worry about engaging with them.
Coming down to the gate at the bottom of leg 2. Again, it's a 4-leg course. Start, go upwind to the windward mark, round it to starboard, leave it on the starboard or right side, down to the gate that you split, as Matt described earlier. Round either end to go up for leg 3, upwind, zigzagging uphill against the wind, and then round the top mark again and back down to the finish, which is the obverse of the starting line between the committee boat and the yellow.
This is a really close match here coming into the finish between Sienna, I believe, Sienna Nichols
and Marcello Torre.
And Marcello Torre. And wow, I think Sienna did that awfully well. Let's see what happens. Oh, then she, oh.
It's a green flag, so no penalties. Yep. It's whoever exits these jibes quickly. Looks like Marcello Torre, having spun the boat a little bit less, has got a little bit more hull speed.
Yeah, he's
now as he goes to his jibe with speed.
Yeah, and Sienna jibed at very low speed and is only now getting up to speed. But again, his jibe wasn't all that great. Oh boy, look at this. This is going to be very close, folks.
The 2 boats way over on the left side of your screen as they come into the finish.
Oh.
Sienna's going to win.
Sienna with the blue flag up for Sienna Nichols and her team winning.
Wow. She pulled that out.
She got a little puff right at there.
She did get a little puff there, but that's, you know, we try to take care of that with locals. You know, Sienna's a local, so we can arrange a puff or 2 sometimes.
You think the Newport Harbor God came down and gave her a breath of fresh air.
Indeed. Well, that was great. So she's now has 5 wins, and as I said, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Again, that's not a match that's going to impact in the semifinal determination here as we are wrapping up Flight 20. 2 more flights to go in the rounds robin phase. Top 4 teams advancing to the semis later this afternoon. What are we looking at now here? This is the Pinkney Tapper match. Looks like Tapper on the right side of your screen in boat 10, and Pinkney on the left side of your screen. You can almost see his Newport Harbor, the pullovers, the life jackets, and he is in boat 9 as they go up to the top mark. Is this the second time up to the top mark for Pinkney Tapper?
Yeah. Boy, that's still, Tom, I still don't, you know, if you're Tapper, he split a long way. And that just, you know, when you have a lead like that, why take chances to try to increase a big lead?
Yeah, Morgan did a good job of setting it up so as he was able to do a fast rounding around the opposite gate to Tapper and his team. and that just got them a bit of separation, and then they've been able to sail a little bit of a higher groove and close the lateral separation without giving up any boat forward speed. So really good job coming back in with Morgan Pinkney. He's going to be hoping he can get the lead here.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but he did decrease the length.
Well, the mark's way up in the upper left
Right.
corner of your screen, so you can see that Cole is relatively closer to the mark. When they tack here, he's still going to have a bit of a lead. But I think you're right. Morgan's closed it up.
Morgan should be close enough that he can throw disturbed air on the downwind, though, if they stay this far ahead and behind of each other. So that's a lot better than the previous one, where Morgan was maybe 8-9 boat lengths. He's maybe 4 or 5 boat lengths, 3 boat lengths maybe.
We might tell our viewers that there are actually 2 marks now at the top of your screen center. They're just the orange one is still on screen. That's the one we believe they're sailing to. The yellow one is an alternate weather mark in case the wind shifts to the right, and the race committee can signal the boats to sail to that one to try to keep the upwind leg, the axis of that leg, directly as nearly as possible into the wind.
However, for Morgan, he's seen Justin Callahan's been overtaken by Tom Higgins, which keeps him having a chance of making the semi-finals, even if he can't get the overtake in this race.
I wonder how that happened. It is unfortunate that we can't cover every one of these pairs. There's just too much happening each time. So we are focusing on this stage, or this flight, on the 2 races that will have the most impact. But you're absolutely right. Justin is now behind, and if he loses, then Morgan still has a chance.
And Tom Higgins is ahead with the green and white kite, the Irish kite. So they're pretty much 100 yards from the finish line here, almost on lay, but probably a small jibe in at the end. So Tom Higgins should be able to close this out from here with a nice jibe into the finish. You can see the different styles of sailing downwind. Tom Higgins keeping the boat a lot flatter than Justin Callahan's team.
That's fine, just keep on it. It just gives it texture.
Josh Hyde and his Royal New Zealand team are sailing alongside the media boat, saying hello. Well, good for Tom Higgins. That's a big win for him and a big loss for Justin.
However, Cole Tapper's just getting to the top mark, setting his spinnaker with a nice big lead. He did a really good job of sailing fast to the top there and bouncing Morgan Pinkney on the lay line to extend back into a 7-8 boat length lead.
Well, and also the other 2 competitors. So we've got Hyde, Justin Callahan, and Morgan Pinkney. And, of course, Callahan lost and Morgan's losing, and Hyde lost. So Hyde, when they came by us here, were in a very good mood because they were seeing that Justin Callahan have moved back just like they did.
And that Pinkney's also.
And Pinkney is also
trailing.
Losing, yes.
As we watch coming down leg 4, their final leg, that's Tapper in the lead with that dark and white, dark stripe. I guess it's a navy stripe on their kite, and the lighter blue, it's actually purple kite of Morgan Pinkney and co.
So, Tom, the way this right now, we started the day with those 3 competitors all having a chance to get into the semifinals and had the same difference between them. They still do.
Yeah.
Now we have only 2 races to go. They still have exactly the same position as against each other. So this will be really. Boy, Morgan has a tough day though. He's got to now sail Jeffrey Peterson, I think.
And Morgan lost to Justin Callahan, so he would lose a tie in the second round robins. He would lose a tie break split. So Morgan needs to be 1 win ahead of Justin. And he's 1 win behind right now. So assuming he loses this race, as it looks like he's going to, he needs to win both of his races, and Callahan needs to lose both of his races for Pinkney to continue to advance.
Yeah, that's why losing to Tom Higgins there, with Justin Callahan losing to Tom Higgins, I believe he could have secured his berth by winning that race because of the tiebreaker. So big loss. So he needs to regroup. But I'll tell you, if anybody in this group of sailors has proven that they can rebound from a bad day or a bad race, it's Justin Callahan, coming from 1-5 on day 1.
Andy, a lot of discussion among the sailors and the umpires, the officials, over the last 4 days that we've been here about whether we should have quarterfinals, that is a one-round robin, and then go into quarterfinals, the top 8 boats going into head-to-head knockout racing, or whether this double round robin, which has been the traditional format for GovCup since the beginning, or nearly the beginning. You and I tend to favor this double round robin. Why?
Well, a number of reasons. One, it keeps everybody sailing. And second, and most importantly, with a fleet that's this closely matched, you can do what Justin Callahan did, lose 5 races on the first day, and then come back to be competing to be a semifinalist. And I think that's great because some of the crews, have experience in these boats. Some of the crews have more match racing experience. The ones that don't catch up very quickly, and the double round robin gives them the chance to do that.
We're getting a bit of signal there. No further in.
Pros and cons, I suppose, both ways, but I agree with you, Andy. I think, especially for sailors that have never sailed these particular boats, you've just said that, and how important it is to get the practice time in. Because, for example, we've seen with Justin Callahan, he had a horrible, maybe too swell. It was horrible. I mean, call it what you want. His first day he was not abused.
Nope.
He won only one match. But he came in, he was super, we quoted him in the press release, he was super optimistic, and he said, look, I'm going to get through to the semifinals with 5 losses, and I've just had my 5 losses. Okay.
So he's only got 2 more, well now 3 more, but as we were talking on the morning show.
Go ahead. And then
Yeah, as we were talking, normally the semifinalists in the Governor's Cup end up with 3 losses, 2 losses, 0 losses, something like that. The record is to get into the semis was, I forget who it was, but had 7 losses. Here, I think we may break that record for the last semifinalist.
And that was Morgan Pinkney just crossing the finish line with the purple and white kite, losing, as he did, to Cole Tapper. So it's Maddie. You're the brainiac here, keeping our stats and standings. What do you think the implications are again?
I think it's Morgan Pinkney is in must-win situation, and Josh Hyde and Justin Callahan are both in. If they win a race, they qualify for the semi-finals. So Morgan can just take care of what he can do. He can't worry about anyone else. Just win your race and hope everything goes through.
Yeah, but he needs somebody else to help him get in, so he can't write his own story here. But it's unfortunate because he was, of course, a semifinalist and 3rd place finisher last year, and I know he is disappointed. But with this caliber of competition, there's no shame in the way he's sailing.
If you look at the shot right now, we've got the marks moving. This is the leeward end of the starting line, the pin end of the starting line, the yellow buoy. You may wonder who is towing that mark, because it's not being towed. We are using, for the first time ever, Madam Christine Gribben, our esteemed regatta chair for life, and Dr. Don Becker, the PRO, have managed to buy a couple of these robotic marks. They're called mark set bots. And they've chartered some more, a total of 6. So the marks around the course this year for the first time are not anchored to the bottom of the ocean. They are on a couple of pontoons. They've got an electric motor that swivels, and they are self-positioning by GPS, by an app on a phone or an iPad. And the race committee can very quickly just reset the course, literally, with an app.
It's pretty amazing.
What will they think of next, Andrew?
Oh, maybe sailing the America's Cup and foiling weird boats.
Or not.
Or not, yeah.
If you're just joining us, we're out here on the Pacific Ocean, a few hundred meters off Newport Beach, California. I don't know if we can get a shot, guys, of the beach behind us here on Adios, the media boat, on day 4 of the 57th edition of the Governor's Cup. It's Andy, I hate to say it, but it's champagne sailing conditions. It's a touch light, but a gorgeous day. We're between the 2 piers here.
Here's a great shot of the beach.
There it is. Newport Pier to the west and the Balboa Pier behind us to the east. And inside, of course, is Newport Harbor Yacht Club, Balboa Yacht Club, Bahia Corinthian Yacht Club, and one of the great sailing and boating hotbeds of this country, Andy. And you've grown up here, at least most of your child and adult life.
It's a pretty amazing place. We are very lucky. Just the odd earthquake or two.
Well, nothing like we have in the Bay Area.
No, that's true.
Up in San Francisco. A 6-ring circus, as we have 12 teams competing. So 6 matches going on as we are now into flight 21 of the round-robin phase of this 57th edition of the GovCup. And going across the line now in the pre-start is Bernal and Nichols, right?
Nichols to leeward in boat 8, leading into the pin end. Bernal behind him 5, towards the starboard end of the line.
So we'll cover the 4th start here primarily, which is Pinkney and Peterson.
And probably the 5th start, which is Hyde and Tapper.
Right, fair enough. So yeah, so I think we will, by the end of this next race, we should know our semifinalists with 1 race remaining.
While we're looking at this pre-start between Bernal and Nichols, this is Sienna Nichols, we mentioned earlier, is the youngest competitor in the history of the Governor's Cup at age 15. Her twin sister, fraternal twin sister, Maddie Nichols, is crewing with her. Eddie Kleem and Kai Brennan, all representing the Balboa Yacht Club here in Newport Beach. And they are going to be a force to be reckoned with in due course.
Well, we have somebody sitting next to us who's actually sailed against her in 2 match race series, Matt Whitfield. What do you think of Sienna, Matt?
I mean, I've only got good things to say about them on the water and good things to say about them off the water. So I think that's one of the great things about sailing is people are good. It's not just good sailors. They're generally you have very good people around. So, and I think one interesting thing is that, you know, they've done a lot of match racing recently, but they're only getting better every time there's something new, and they come in and say, oh, we learned this today. So they've got a lot of years of doing that till they are done with GovCup.
Well, we should say that Matt was able to beat her both times, but I think a lot of respect for her. And she won the Mayor's Cup in Long Beach, which is a women's regatta, and in doing so beat the 4th-ranked woman match racer in the world, Allie Bleacher. So she's the real deal. I mean, there's no question about it.
And we're watching that match between Bernal and Nichols. Bernal in boat 5 there in the lower right corner of your screen. He is Brazilian, doing his 2nd GovCup, Nicholas Bernal. And last year his English was not great. This year he's almost perfectly fluent and a hell of a nice kid and a great sailor, former Lightning class junior world champion. Crewing for him is Leonardo Didier and Pedro Vigand.
So really close between Bernal and Nichols here. Almost a repeat of what we saw in the last race with Cole Tapper and Morgan Pinkney, with at least initially on the weather leg, both boats just trading tacks.
And looking upwind, it does look like there's a little bit more consistent pressure out on the left right now, which is where Sienna Nichols and her team are heading towards.
Looks like it's gotten a touch softer, guys.
I think it's about the same.
You think?
Yeah, it's not, it's not awesome, but again, these boats, as you can see, they're moving right along. So these boats are very light, and they have a tremendous amount of sail area for their size, and that combination is a good thing in light air. But as we've noticed, Tom Ehman and Matt, when it blows, they're spectacular to watch because they are incredibly fast in 18, 19 knots of wind.
You raised, or at least led, the fundraising for these boats, designed by past Commodore Alan Anders of Balboa Yacht Club. You called it his best design ever, and you own another of his.
I have one of his boats. Yeah, I love the It's Okay. It's a great boat, and we've had a great deal of fun with it and won some races. But
Anders 50.
The Anders 50. But Alan's designed great boats all over the world over the years. But boy, I think this one just is awesome. These boats are just terrific to sail in this stuff. So,
and we don't have to take your word for it because you may be a touch biased.
I'm a touch biased.
Maybe not, but the kids say it. The sailors come in and say year after year how great these boats are. Well, it's tight up there.
Yep, it is. Oh boy, look at that. Okay, we're going to this pre-start between C and Higgins. Dylan C. is another great story, Tom. Dylan is the second youngest in this fleet. He's 17 years old, headed to Stanford University in the fall. A very accomplished dinghy sailor, just really beginning his match race career. He sailed in the Rose Cup, did very well in the Rose Cup, which got him here. But he, too, will be a force to be reckoned with.
What in God's name is the Rose Cup?
The United States Youth Match Racing Championship for the Rose Cup, which I did not name after myself. That's the full name.
It is, but it is named in your honor, the U.S. Youth Match Racing Champ. Dylan C. from Newport Harbor Yacht Club, sailing with Dylan Garcia, Cam Spriggs, whose, I believe, grandfather was a Commodore at San Diego Yacht Club, if memory serves, Bobby Spriggs, and Tyler Wood.
There's 20 seconds to go in this pre-start here. Tom Higgins to leeward done a really good job of getting the boat stopped, and he's going to be able to build speed with a nice, decent length run into this pin end, whereas Dylan's going to be a little bit stuck in at that committee boat. He's not going to be able to reach off too much to build speed, which is key in this light 5 knots.
How much time? Oh, that was it.
0.
That was the start. So, yeah, you'd have to call it an even start, but Matt's exactly right. Dylan C. just was really slow at the start there.
And a yellow flag on the back of an umpire boat. It looks like the yellow boat has been penalized.
Which is Dylan C.
Dylan C.
So advantage Higgins right now, but very close race. Both boats would be roughly bow to bow if they came back together.
Umpire, medium.
So Tom Higgins there from the port end tacks over. Looks like he tacked in a little bit of a hole there. You can see his bow is a little bit down on the screen. Just looks like he's just not quite got the pressure and left-hand shift that he might need to come across well.
Well, you can see it from our viewpoint here, which is fairly high off the water. It's great because we can see these glassy areas, and I agree with you, Matt. I think he tacked right on the edge of a glassy area, meaning the wind isn't hitting the ground at that, or the ocean at that point. So it's still quite tricky sailing out here.
Yeah, there's a lot of big holes and a lot of small little holes that just that half boat length loss is really, really painful in close, tight level match racing. And these boats particularly, which when you get a knot more pressure, you gain a lot of speed. It's not like an Etchells or a Soling where you go from 5.5 to 5.51.
Right.
You go from 5.5 to 6 knots sort of thing.
Quite a few spectator boats out here today on this beautiful, beautiful Friday.
So you can see on the screen to lure Dylan C just seeming to gain a little bit bow forwards, just in a little bit more pressure there. So he does have a penalty, so he's got to do a turn the wrong way. So on a beat, he has to do a jibe. On a run, he has to do a tack with his spinnaker down before the finish at some point. So he doesn't have to do it until the finish line. So to look to offset that penalty, he's either going to try and extend and get a long way ahead, which is probably why you're seeing a boat that's slightly ahead, not coming back towards the middle of the other boat.
Right.
However, he probably needs maybe a 3 to 5 boat length lead, depending on the pressure. So probably in this breeze, you probably need a 3 boat length lead to offset that penalty with a jibe, with a tack around the pin end.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That goes against what I was saying earlier. You know, if you have a lead, not great to go far away from the other boat. But here he has to do something to gain a lead. And so if you can go and get a good shift, you got to take a few more chances, in other words. And this is still going to be very close here. He's ahead. And Higgins basically conceded at that point, said, okay, I'm not going to cross him, and I want to go back to the left. So that means you do what Tom Higgins did, which is tack early. So now, if you can visualize it on your screen there, it's great shots. If the boats come, their bow goes more towards the bottom of the screen, the wind has gone slightly left, which makes it, you will be higher on the other tack. C still with a little lead here. I don't think, well, he hasn't gained it yet. He couldn't cross before, and he can't now, but it looks like the gauge, it looks like he's getting a bit closer.
Yeah, Higgins looks like out of this tack, he's been going very fast, just a little bit faster, higher VMG gain. And they're on this starboard ley line here, so they're coming up close. There's not going to be a lot of port tack to do. So Dylan C just needs to live in there for the next minute, 2 minutes. Just not let Tom Higgins get across his bow. like we saw Jeffrey Peterson do to Josh Hyde in that first race today. So in the pre-start, there is a match between Robbie McCutcheon and Justin Callahan. Justin Callahan in boat 1 in blue, but Robbie McCutcheon is yellow and has a yellow penalty, so he's got a penalty in this pre-start with 50 seconds to go. Both boats are very close to this committee boat, so a lot of time to burn here, but they're completely parked, and you see, and Justin Callahan cannot start on port, so he's going to have to try and build speed and then send it into attack or try and jibe round. But he's not moving fast, so I think a jibe round would be very painful here. I don't think he'd ever get back to the start line.
McCutcheon has to maintain his position because he is the windward boat. So if he gets too close, but he is already, here he goes, and Justin is bearing away because he was unable to start with McCutcheon right there. But
15 seconds to go.
But now if he tacks, he's not going to be too far behind.
However, he does have to build in the dirt of the committee boat, which is going to be slow. Robbie McCutcheon doing a really good job there of going, I've got a penalty, but I'm going to really win the start and be able to accelerate away. He probably has enough already to think about being doing his penalty. He's probably 4 or 5 boat lengths ahead already by the time Justin gets up to speed.
You can see in this shot, or you could just a moment ago, the umpire boat trailing. In fact, now you see it again, has a yellow flag displayed. There are 2 color flags that are the yacht identification flags that the umpires and the race committee use. One yacht, in this case, Callahan is displaying a yellow flag on the leech, as Matt described, the trailing edge of the mainsail. The other yacht, Higgins, is leading, and he is the blue boat. He has a blue flag on his leech. And that's the color that the umpires use to penalize one or the other. If the umpires display a green and white checkered flag, that means there is no penalty coming out of an incident. Not good, guys, for Justin Callahan.
Nope.
Although the lead boat, Tom Higgins, does owe the penalty.
It's Robbie McCutcheon.
Robbie McCutcheon.
Or McCutcheon, rather. I beg your pardon.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an excellent start by Robbie McCutcheon. If you can pin the other boat, basically pin him to the committee boat, so there's no place to go. They can't start, and that's exactly what happened. So Justin had to go past the committee boat, tack, and then was 4 boat lengths behind almost immediately.
Yeah, really, really good job there. Particularly, once you get that penalty, it almost gives you the freedom to go a little bit more aggressive and really go for a slam dunk start.
All right, so this start will be Peterson and Pinkney. So this one, Morgan has a lesser chance to get in. If he loses this, he will not get into the semifinals.
Peterson in boat 4, Pinkney in boat 9. We've run through their crews before.
With
Peterson,
3 minutes to go in the start.
Peterson representing Newport Harbor Yacht Club.
Balboa Yacht
I
Club,
beg your
please.
pardon. Pinkney representing Newport Harbor Yacht Club, and Peterson, of course, representing the Cross Harbor rival, the Balboa Yacht Club.
Okay, so you see the 2 boats in the more or less dial up above the line here, and that's just a function of the starboard tack boat having right of way. The port tack boat must tack or somehow avoid them, and that's what you're seeing here. Now look at this.
However,
It's
both
very
boats
close.
on port here. I think Morgan Pinkney's worried here. You see sculling backing to try and get away because he is the
almost hit
giveaway
him.
boat.
He almost hit him, and they had been there long enough that that Morgan would have been penalized there, but barely escaped. So a good escape, and now they're just going to do a very typical thing, and they'll be coming towards us with neither boat having a real advantage as yet.
Matt Whitfield, why do they call this the playground? The part to the starboard end, the part of the water to the starboard end of the committee boat.
Because generally, if you come into the playground, you can circle around, try and fishtail, so that's lead and try and slow the other boat up and get into with each other to try and get an advantage off the start line. So if you're in the playground, you can do stuff to the other boat.
Okay, so Peterson got enough distance between him and the other boat that he was able to tack onto starboard without committing a foul, and now has a pretty good position here. It's hard to control in these boats because they're quite maneuverable, but he's now again chasing Morgan Pinkney away from the starting line.
With 1 minute 20 to go, Morgan jibes round. He's maybe 25, 30 seconds from the committee boat. The pin does look like it's a little bit favored right now, so maybe a little bit longer to get back to there. So look to see Morgan lead in and try and slow down.
Matt, for non-sailors, racing sailors, what does that mean, the pin is favored?
The pin is the other end of the line to the committee boat, so the yellow mark that you can see off to the left of the screen. That means that it is slightly further upwind, so you have a slightly shorter distance to the top mark from there. So you in theory, are half a boat length, maybe a boat length ahead off this start line. And Morgan doing a really good job of hooking Peterson from to leeward, and Peterson's just to windward stuck, and he can't really do anything because if he tacks out, Morgan will go with him. So Morgan is just able to hold them head to wind here, and then whenever he wants to, he can accelerate to the pin.
Not quite as close,
seconds.
but very similar to the last start. Only this time, Jeffrey Peterson is in Justin's position and may not be able to start here. And indeed, he's coming away. He's going to try to build a little pace and then tack, and he will be able to tack before the committee boat. But boy, he's going slowly.
Yes, so you can see Morgan's accelerating to that pin end with 8 seconds to go. Morgan's full speed ahead. Jeffrey trying to accelerate it behind the committee boat. It's just going to be a bit lighter and a little bit slower off this line. Good job, Morgan Pinkney, and a must-win match for him.
Indeed.
A must-win match where he requires Justin Callahan to lose. However, unfortunately for him, despite that great start, Justin Callahan is maybe 2 boat lengths ahead going downwind in his match.
Let's go out to Tommy Spithill. We think the technical problems have been sorted to the roving boat. Tom Spithill from Australia, the famous Spithill family. Tommy, what are you seeing in this must-win match for Morgan Pinkney?
Yeah, well, we've seen in the other matches a couple of the other competitors sailing in their own respective matches or hanging around the pre-starter.
Well, I hope I didn't jinx it by saying it was sorted, but we're having audio problems again with Tommy, and we'll go to work on it again. Meanwhile, Pinkney and Peterson going upwind on leg 1 of this 4-leg match in the 21st flight.
Pinkney to windward there in boat 9, Peterson in boat 4 to leeward. Peterson looks like he's going very fast and high, gaining back some of that, off that line. You know, like we saw in the last race.
Yep.
Jeffrey Peterson's quite fast upwind. I think if he tacked over here now, he would be at least bow to bow with Morgan Pinkney.
Yes,
so
I agree.
you know that's advantage Peterson on the right-hand side there.
Well, our sense of this is that, you know, Cole Tapper is pretty adept at the starts. You know, there's no question he's one of the best. Probably is maybe the best match race starter out here. But Jeffrey Peterson has a little bit of an edge on the course. He's just a bit faster. And that's what you saw here because he was really closed out of that start. I mean, Morgan beat him soundly at the start, but boy, he's gaining ground quickly.
Peterson,
yes.
And again, that's Peterson to leeward, meaning downwind of Morgan's track in boat 4. Morgan Pinkney to windward.
So Peterson being towards the bottom of your screen with Morgan up in the middle.
Yeah, Morgan tacking out there is a good sign for Peterson. Just Pinkney just worrying about getting dirty wind and just losing out. It's a sign of defeat.
Well, he's hoping that it shifts enough that he can get a little bit of a left shift and then tack and gain back some of that distance.
Or sail into some pressure.
Yep, or sail into some pressure.
In the upwind left before Jeffrey does.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see Peterson there just a little bit higher on starboard here. His bow's a little bit higher, pointing closer to that top mark. They're trying to make it round. Pinkney just going low but not gaining the speed to make up for that extra distance.
So to bring you up to date on the Callahan McCutcheon race, Robbie McCutcheon is still ahead. He rounded the outside gate. Justin Callahan just rounded behind him on the inside gate. but Robbie is still carrying that penalty.
Got another interesting match coming up. The Hyde Tapper match is in the pre-start sequence. Hyde in boat 6. Looks like the third place boat out of the rounds robin against Tapper, the second place boat, it looks like, out of the rounds robin. We think Josh Hyde is going to go forward, and Cole Tapper is mathematically assured of going into the semis along with Jeffrey Peterson. We're looking at that now in the pre-start, right? T? That's
Hyde and Tapper in the pre-start on your screens right now. Yeah, Justin Callahan going upwind with a big split with Robbie McCutcheon. Robbie McCutcheon's around the left gate and stayed left, and Callahan's rounded the right gate and stayed right on port. Big split, which Andy, I know you don't like a split, and I think it looks like there's good pressure on the right-hand side. So potentially Justin and his team are going to be gaining a little bit of that deficit back.
Okay, here comes Justin Tapper on starboard. Both boats have tacked, so we'll have another cross here. I think McCutcheon is still ahead, and maybe even more so.
So on your screen, you've got 1 second to go. You've got Josh Hyde to leeward starting on port with a slightly better start than Cole Tapper.
Well, I probably jinxed Cole by saying he was maybe the best match race starter out here. Sorry, Cole. Interesting, Matt. You know, with McCutcheon carrying a penalty, wouldn't you have, if you were Justin, stayed more in his water close to him? I don't think he had enough distance to kill the penalty.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have split that much.
I think if you're 100% confident you've got a gain, then yes, you can split. But otherwise, yeah, I would have considered staying in the same water as Robbie McCutcheon. However, it looks like they're coming back together with McCutcheon still ahead and maybe about 2-3 boat lengths ahead. So it doesn't look like much of a change. So hopefully if you're Justin, then you haven't lost too much and you're still within distance to stop a penalty.
He's pretty well behind there, I think. I think he lost some on that. I think McCutcheon gained.
I agree. I'm standing up here now looking up the track, and I agree with you, Andrew. I think that penalty, of course, is still going to be crucial. Tell us, Matt, about how you must and when you must take a penalty and the so-called spin to win.
Yes, so you have to do a turn through the wind the incorrect way for whatever you are on that leg. So on a beat, it's a jibe. On a run, it is a tack. And you can do it anytime you want until the finish. So you have to just do it before you cross the finish line.
And there goes
he just did it.
There goes McCutcheon clearing his penalty.
So now it's
still
a who
well
leads
ahead.
who.
And indeed, he just did it. He did a jibe on the upwind leg, perfectly described by Matt. He still comes out with the lead. He's ahead to windward.
Close, though.
It is close as they go into the top mark the second time.
And in the match on screen, you've got Tapper on the left-hand side, and then you've got Josh Hyde out on the right-hand side. Tapper had a lee bow tack on him there, and they're very, very close together. Just a real speed race now between the two of them.
Oh, beautiful set on Justin Callahan's boat there, and he's only about 6 seconds behind McCutcheon, so this should be an interesting downwind leg.
Peterson beating Pinkney. Peterson picking.
On your screen now, you've got Jeffrey Peterson in the blue kite coming downwind on the second downwind to hopefully lead against, for him, hopefully lead against Morgan Pinkney across the finish line.
As often happens, what you're seeing now is two pairs getting a little bit mixed up. So if depending on the match, if one pair does more tacks or more jibes, the pair behind them may well get closed up with them.
Sorry, Peterson Pinkney are on their first downwind. They've got to go back upwind again.
Well, I'll tell you, Morgan caught up quite a bit there, I think, guys. That's pretty impressive.
Still a hard lead to gain, maybe 3-4 boat lengths, and Pinkney coming in
now
slow.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, coming through the dirty wind of his own yacht club member,
Yep.
Dylan C's just
So he
really slowed him up.
He had to take his shoot down way early, and yeah.
Yeah, that other match, the green kite and the red kite. The green kite is Tom Higgins coming across the finish line ahead of Dylan C with the red kite ending that match. But it's this.
And you see there,
Peterson, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
you see Peterson tacked onto starboard once he realized Pinkney was going around the other mark. He tacked onto starboard to stay bow to bow with Pinkney, so he reduces the leverage, like you're saying, Andy. Stay between the other guy and the mark.
So we're just watching. You don't see it on your screen yet, but we're watching Justin Callahan and Robbie McCutcheon come downwind, and Robbie McCutcheon is still in the lead and has killed his penalty. So whoever has crossed the finish line first wins. Robbie doing a nice job of keeping his wind clear, as Justin Callahan tries to get into position to disturb the wind flowing down to Robbie McCutcheon's boat.
The match we're on now is Peterson Pinkney.
Tapper Hyde.
Tapper Hyde
leading.
now. Tapper in boat 10 with the Navy kite in the lead, and Hyde with the yellow kite trailing.
Yeah, Tapper with a good 3-4 boat length lead. You can see Josh Hyde, though, is set up inside to leeward. So when they jibe over, he should be able, with a good jibe, be able to get a little bit of projection onto Tapper's kite, and he's going to hope he can reel him in.
Which waist do you want covered on drone? You'll only be able to cover one for a minute or two. We're covering Peterson Pinkney right now.
So on your screen right now, the closest spinnaker is the blue kite of Justin Callahan, with Robbie McCutcheon leading with the purple kite, just going through a jibe now, coming into the finish line. McCutcheon's laying through the marks, just on the edge of whether he's laying or not. So Robbie McCutcheon here just going to try and go fast through the line, and hopefully for him get through the finish line and pick up a win against a potential semi-finalist.
Boy, this is quite an upset, Tom. You know, this is 2 races in a row. Who would have guessed this morning that Justin would come out and lose 2 races in a row?
I think Harvard and Yale, neither of them want to get into the semis.
I think that may be true.
Harvard being Justin Callahan, Yale being Morgan Pinkney, and they're both struggling this morning. Now in the afternoon here, as we close in on 1 o'clock, 1300 here in Newport Beach on the Pacific Ocean for the 57th Governor's Cup, and there is the purple kite winning of McCutcheon. Who would have thought, Andrew?
Yep.
So coming downwind, Tapper and Hyde trading simultaneous jibes. Tapper just breathing out front with a little bit of pressure. So he's.
Go ahead, finish up, Matty.
So coming downwind into this gate, which, you know, very close race here in between 2 potential semi-finalists.
I just wanted to congratulate Robbie McCutcheon. We haven't introduced his crew, I don't think, today. Eli Leifting, it's either Leifting or Leifting, I'm not sure which, but Eli and Ollie Lloyd, they're representing the RNZ, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, one of the top yacht racing clubs in the world, the current holder of the America's Cup. Too bad they're not holding the America's Cup in Auckland in a couple months' time, Andy, instead in Barcelona.
It's a suburb of Auckland.
Follow the money.
Yep, follow the
But
money.
congratulations to Robbie McCutcheon, and now we're seeing this Yacht 10 and Yacht 6, Matt.
Yeah, Cole Tapper, Finn's his older brother. So he's leading downwind into this gate. They're going to look to rip a hot jibe here, coming fast to this downwind mark. Cole setting up in a really good position where he's in the middle of the gate, so he can pick either side to go to whichever one he wants to go. So he might want to go to this right-hand side, which would be an easier, quicker turn, or he could match Josh Hyde and go left, as it looks like Josh Hyde set up for a right-hand turn.
Following this match into the gate is Tommy Spithill. Tomas?
Yes, guys, we're just watching Hyde come in here. His lefty's dropped pretty late, and they're going to go to the different marker to Tapper. Reasonable drop here. The breeze has dropped a little bit here now, so it is hard making these boats go around corners, so these manoeuvres are crucial.
Tommy, I'm impressed with Josh Hyde. He hasn't won all of his matches, but he's doing well, sailing fast. And here he is, basically, not quite bow to bow even, but nearly so with Cole Tapper, who, of course, is going forward as in the runner-up position coming out of the rounds robin. What do you think about Josh Hyde? What do you know about it?
Yeah, well, look, it's interesting. Just the body language. You know, you can see between Tapper and Peterson, it just looks like another leisurely Sunday stroll or a relaxed beer can race. Like, Hyde and his team are really hyper-focused and they're really pushing hard. But for Tapper, it just sort of seems like his boat speed and manoeuvres just seem relaxed and that it comes easy. You know, he's making it look like easy work here. And visually going through the water upwind, Tapper's just got that speed edge. But Hyde, it's certainly not through any lack of trying. We're in a great position watching the jib trimmers looking up at the sail, so he's constantly adjusting it for each wind change or if there's a bump on the water. It's so everyone's working really hard. Even though it's light air, people are going to be physically exhausted after today just to try and make these boats move in these conditions. It's just really hard work.
So Josh Hyde on the right-hand side going for a tack over on starboard to come back to Cole Tapper. Looks like he's coming out in a slightly light patch. He's going to hope that he can build up and come back in bow to bow, if not really close to Cole Tapper. Cole Tapper was 2 boat lengths ahead round the bottom marks.
We've also got another match coming downwind, and we've seen this here. While we've got 5 other matches happening in a flight, managing where the other boats, not just the ones you're versing in your match, but the other traffic on the course is super important here, because if you're leading, it can all of a sudden put you not in the lead, and if you're behind and you can make the lead boat go through the gas or the dirty winds of the other boat, then that can be a real advantage and bring you back into the game.
Tommy, you may not have been here, but Matt Whitfield just burst into tears because a few years ago he had exactly that kind of thing, coming into the finish leading to go 5-0, and the other boats sort of disturbed it.
It was Cole's older brother Finn actually who we screwed up. So we, you know, I think any time I see Finn for the rest of my life, I owe him a beer for that, because I really screwed up his race. I deserve to screw up my race, but he didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
And you got Jeff Peterson now coming into the finish. Peterson in boat 4 coming into the finish ahead of Pinkney. Andy,
Yep.
neither Yale nor Harvard want to win matches today.
Nope, they don't seem to.
Morgan Pinkney, what's he going into his sophomore year at Yale?
Yep.
A hell of a good sailor from Newport Harbor right here, and a great kid, a character. He's a surfer, a fisherman. Andy, tell the story when we had him here on the commentary team a couple of years ago when he said, yeah, I'll join you out on Adios, a couple 100 meters off the beach.
He says, I'll just meet you out there. I'll paddle out. So here he came on his board and got off the boat, and we gave him a shirt and up in the booth here. They did a great job.
And I don't think anyone's going to want to be doing that this year with all the shark sightings coming around Orange County's coast. I wouldn't be swimming out today, even though it's, what, 200 yards off the beach?
Yep.
Nice to hear a Brit say yards.
Well, I play golf.
Well, and then afterwards, when we were done with the heading back in to the yacht club here on Adios, we said, well, you can come in with us and we'll give you a Diet Coke or something. And he said, no, I think I'll just swim back to the beach and keep surfing. Hopped off the back end of the boat on his board, and away he went.
Yep.
At the top of the track here, guys, we had Hyde didn't have the best set. The spinnaker halyards, so that's what's pulling up the yellow colourful sail. You can see got caught behind the side stay, and then the spinnaker got what we call a wine glass. So Tapper managed to do a clean set, and now he's extended to about a 5 to 6 length lead, so quite a comfy sort of lead at the moment.
So what this would mean if this finishes like this is the 3 teams that were competing to get into the semifinals along with Cole Tapper and Jeffrey Peterson, the other 3 teams will have all lost their first 2 races. Who would have predicted that?
How about we give a little love here to Torre and Kemp coming in. Torre in the red kite leading ahead of Kemp in the blue kite. That's the gate, not the finish line, in fact.
Just ahead.
Yeah, Torre leading round, both of them doing a big handbrake turn around there, so probably good extension kind of come here from Torre from that spin. He's just going to be to leeward, able to accelerate. Similar situation when they're both down speed. Off the start line, you can get up to speed faster if you're to leeward.
Marcello Torre, who sounds Italian, but he's from Western Australia, WA, the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club, sailing with George Elms, and I hope I pronounced Vasilis Katsidis, I'm not sure which, from out in WA. He's had a bit of an up and down regatta, Andrew.
Indeed, he was doing pretty well after the first couple days, but has faded a little bit here. And unfortunately, fading a little bit puts you down the leaderboard by 2 or 3 people, and you're out of the semis.
And sailing with Daniel Kemp, Louis Tilley, Lachlan Wallace, and Isabella Holdsworth. And Andy, we had Isabella on the morning show stage. You interviewed her this morning because they're doing something a little different on that boat than the others.
Well, first, she is a real tactician, and that helps. But she's also sitting forward in the pre-starts and has a better view. She has the timer. She has a better view of where her bow, where Daniel Kemp and team's bow is, as opposed to the other boat. And if you've seen some of these pre-starts, the boats get very close together, like within a foot or a foot and a half. So having a pair of eyes farther forward may be a little advantage to them in that close maneuvering. Coming
into the finish now is Hyde and Tapper. Maddie, what do you think?
Cole Tapper just jibing across there, coming into the finish line here. He's 6 boat lengths ahead, but not a great jibe, losing a little bit of that, but just staying between. He's just going to drift across the finish line. Had a good morning so far. He'll be happy.
Cole Tapper going forward into the semis with Jack Freeman and Hamish Voss representing the Cruising Yacht Club of Oz of Australia. One of your favorite clubs in the world, Andy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's one of them. It's a great club. It's the host of the annual Sydney Hobart race, Sydney to Hobart on Tasmania, which is quite a race. I've done a couple of them, and it's just a great club, great facilities, and a great location on Sydney Harbor, and wonderful people, including all of Cole's crew and his coach, Jordan Reese, who is a former Governor's Cup sailor.
Rush Cutters Bay.
Yep.
Not as good though, Andy and Tom, as God's Country up in Pittwater.
No, you go just a little bit north, and you get to Pittwater and the Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club, which is another one of my favorites. We were down there years ago for the 6-meter Oz-Am challenge, and on their twilight or their beer can races, they gave each of Argyle and myself an Etchells.
Argyle Campbell, who is
a 2-time Governor's Cup winner and 2-time Congressional Cup winner, college All-American, etc. And they gave us 2 Etchells, and they furnished them with a bag of ice, a bottle of rum, and some Cokes in a bag. And I thought, well, this is going to be fun. And it was. And so Argyle were wondering if we could fly down there every week to do that.
Well, you're
welcome to come back, Andy, anytime.
Thank you. Well, it's a great place. It's beautiful.
At the top mark, the last match of this Flight 21. Close. That's Torre in boat 12. Is Torre still leading? He has the red kite. Yes, indeed he is, but just ahead of Kemp with the blue kite coming downwind on their final leg. The final leg of Flight 21.
looks very light at the top there. Both boats having to go quite high to get good projection on the spinnaker, and Daniel Kemp coming in just behind, very close. He's really within striking distance here. Going to be a lot of fun on this second half of the downwind.
Daniel is only 20, so if he is invited, he has 2 more years of eligibility. Unfortunately, Marcello, this will be his last year at 22, but I think he's had a good time here.
Eastern Australia against Western Australia.
Yep, and that is quite a rivalry. I can testify to that when I sailed with Alan Bond and the West Australians that were sailing the 12-meter.
Yeah, I seem to remember that in the 1977 America's Cup, you sailed with the Australians against Ted Turner and Gary Jobson.
Yeah, they had an American tactician, which was the height of controversy.
Well, then I seem to remember being asked by New York Yacht Club shortly thereafter to help draft a rule to prevent Americans from sailing in the America's Cup with non-American teams, which I then promptly dubbed the Rosé rule because of your Australian nickname, Rosé. Is that because of the flush on your cheeks after some sun, or?
You'd have to ask Harvey Wallmanger. Harvey named me.
The drink or the sailor?
The sailor. An old Kealoha and 12-meter mate.
Coming towards you guys in the central commentary position there, you can see Daniel Kemp and Torre here, just about to set up for a jibe here into the finish line. Be interesting here if Daniel gets the roll out of the jibe here. So it'll be another close match.
Yes,
I think he is here. They did a better jibe here with the blue spinnaker. That's Daniel Kemp.
Oh, you're right. I think he may roll him. Got a little more speed.
See Marcello's moving around the boat a little bit, trying to see if he can do anything to get it going quicker. He's now sitting to leeward.
You'll see if he's succeeded in that, you'll see the spinnaker of Marcello Torre having some issues like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're having to over-trim the spinnaker, so very strapped. And then we can see on Daniel's boat here, they've got the chute nicely eased and they're pressing over the top now. So sort of using a bit of pace to sort of come down over the top of Marcello and put themselves in a bit of a safe position here.
Very, very well done by Daniel and his tactician and crew.
And 100 yards into the finish here, on the ley line to the pin end, there's no real chance for Torre to overtake here.
Yep.
Like really, really good move there by Kemp and team.
One thing to point out, you know, I know I'm a bit biased here because Daniel's from my home yacht club, the Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club. But last night during the beer cans, I was on the mighty Cha-Cha-Cha, and I was chatting with the Royal New Zealand team of Josh Hyde, and his crew member was saying they trained 7 days in a row before they flew over here. And, you know, I see Daniel out in Pittwater all the time, out there just doing laps, doing manoeuvres. So all these teams, you know, really do take this event seriously, and they put in a lot of time.
Oh, that's great. Well,
Andy,
it shows.
Andy, let me ask you again, what, sometimes we ask questions that we know the answers to, but what are the beer can races to which Tommy was referring?
We have I think a 70-year tradition, 70 or 80 years of doing races in Newport Harbor, which is a relatively narrow body of water. But we start down sort of where I live, more towards Balboa Yacht Club, sail up to the end of the bay between Lido Isle and the mainland, and then sail downwind and finish right off the yacht club, right off Balboa Yacht Club.
Every Thursday night?
Every Thursday night from May 15th to about September 15th. And, you know, it's fun. And there's a big barbecue at the club afterwards, and it makes for a really nice Thursday evening. Sometimes if the boys are having a lot of fun, it can make for bad Friday mornings. But
and It's okay. The 50-footer, you normally race that with what? a dozen or
11 or
give or take
12,
people
yeah.
for overnight racing or for even round the buoys racing. But how many did you have aboard last night?
Somewhere between 25 and 30. It was a big group, but it was fun. We had a nice westerly by then, and so we got to short tack up the bay and managed to avoid all the Duffy electric boats and the kayakers and the outrigger canoes and all the other obstacles you have as you do that. But it's a great tradition, and we continue to do it.
I was on shore tending to the press release distro with Susan Kenny, our esteemed PR lady, rather than out racing with you. But one hears that Morgan Pinkney did some driving last night.
Morgan did indeed. He steered quite a bit upwind, and then Justin Callahan took over for quite a bit downwind. But Morgan did a very good job. And I know he went to Ensenada with us last year, but the year before, and he was new to boats of that size. And so what always is remarkable to me is, like Jeffrey Peterson is another example, that they started in sail dinghies and suddenly are put on a 50-footer and look like they've been doing it all their lives. So.
Well, they always say that it's easier to be if you're a good small boat sailor, like Buddy Melgus, for example, who went on to win the America's Cup, the late, great Buddy Melgus. A lot easier to go from a small boat to a big boat than the reverse.
Without question. That's why everybody that I know pretty much has started in dinghies.
Welcome to the GovCup, the 57th edition. We have completed Flight 21 of 22. We've been at this for the 4th day, and we are about to start Flight 22, but we're going to take a short break before we do that so we can calculate the what-ifs between Morgan Pinkney and Justin Callahan. We think Josh Hyde now has gone forward, is as a mathematically assured semifinalist along with Cole Tapper and Jeffrey Peterson. We're going to take a short break. How long, Director Chris Bretschger? 10-minute break. They're starting to get 22 underway, and we'll be back with that in about 10 minutes. Welcome back, Pacific. There, are we okay? Welcome back to the Pacific Ocean. Tom Ehman alongside Andy Rose, Matt Whitfield, and Tom Spithill out on the roving boat covering the 57th edition of the oldest and most prestigious youth match racing championship in the world, called the Governor's Cup, hosted annually by the Balboa Yacht Club. We're just a few hundred meters off Newport Beach, California. We're in the 22nd, the final flight of the rounds robin phase. We've been doing this now, this is the fourth day. Each of the teams races each of the other team in a match, one-on-one, not fleet racing, one-on-one match race for a total of 22. There's 12 teams total here. And we think we now know, Andy, the 4 semifinalists who will be at the top of the heap, top of the leaderboard after this 22nd. In fact, we think we know them now.
Right.
And they are?
First, let me say we had 3 contenders to be in the semifinals. 2 we knew about, obviously Jeffrey Peterson and Cole Tapper. But the other 3 in contention, Morgan Pinkney, Justin Callahan, and Josh Hyde, all started today with 2 losses. It's like no one wants to be a semifinalist. But we believe what that does is, because Josh was ahead of the other 2 on points coming into today, that Josh is in, and we also believe that that Justin Callahan will be in, because even if he loses and Morgan wins this race, they will be tied, and the first tiebreaker is who beat who in the second round robin. And Justin Callahan was able to beat Morgan. So we believe we have our semifinalists. I might note, I just saw the finish here between Tom Higgins and Robbie McCutcheon. Tom Higgins has won 2 races today.
He's won 3.
3?
All of them. Yeah.
So he's
This is Tom Higgins from Ireland.
From Ireland.
From the Royal St. George Yacht Club. And last year they were down at the bottom of the heap. This is their second, which is helicopter goes by.
I mean, a really impressive, learning curve.
They're good. Yeah, indeed. And he's had a fine regatta.
He has indeed.
Has he aged out? Does he have another year to come back?
I think maybe he has aged out, but it was exciting to hear him. I think it's in the program there if you want to look. It's exciting to hear him say that Ireland and match racing is really taking off in Ireland. Tom just won the Irish Match Racing Championship a few weeks ago before he came here. But it's great to see them doing well and get the bug, as we call it, the match racing bug.
Yeah, he's 22 according to the program,
Yep.
so I think he ages out because Andy, that's 23, cannot have turned 23 before
the last day of the regatta. So Tom won't be with us again, but he's been very impressive to go from where he was last year to beating a lot of these teams this year. It's very impressive. So I think he'll have a long match racing career in the senior level. Or, Tom, as you know, there are 2 under 25 events in Australia, the Warren Jones and the Sir James Hardy Cup, and so he would still be eligible for those for a couple years.
Okay, what we're looking forward to in the 22nd, the final flight of this double round robin, is the final match, because we think it's a preview, will be a preview, a possible preview, certainly, of the finals. It was last year's winner, Jeffrey Peterson, who was last year his second win of the Governor's Cup. In this final match today, we'll be racing Cole Tapper. Jeffrey from the local yacht club, Balboa Yacht Club. Cole Tapper from Australia was the runner-up last year, and we're looking forward to their match in a minute. And Andy, just to confirm, as we said in the previous segment, the winner at the top of the leaderboard after the rounds robin gets to choose which of their other 3 semifinalists they'll race. Now, what's the scoreboard between Jeffrey and Cole? If Cole wins this match, will they be tied?
They will be tied, I believe, and if so, then Cole will will have won the 2 rounds robin. So this is an important match for both of them, because it's a good thing to be able to pick your opponent. Although, after all the contenders have lost 2 races, one wonders whether,
Well, and assuming it is Justin Callahan, whom we're pretty sure will go through as the 4th semifinalist, Josh Hyde is the 3rd semifinalist, as you mentioned. If let's just go ahead, if you're either Cole or Jeffrey, who would you choose at this point as your opponent in the semis. It's a tough call.
I would have said, before today started, I would have said Josh Hyde, just because he's a little younger and
Age 20.
age 20, and just didn't seem out here to, not quite, I think, in Jeffrey's league. But then Justin lost these 2 races, which would have to have been considered upset. So I don't know. Justin's not exactly on a roll. He sort of, if we're correct, and I believe we are, he sort of backed into the semifinals.
Well, up and down. He had a horrible first day and then came strong.
Great second day.
Days 2 and 3.
Yep.
And let's go look at the start here of what is match 4 of Flight 22. This is Sienna Nichols from the Balboa Yacht Club. Isn't that what we're looking at, is Sienna in boat 8? And
against Kemp.
yeah,
who
Kemp,
is
Daniel Kemp, who's in boat 11. There's an umpire whistle, and the yellow boat is being penalized.
which is Kemp. So a really good start for Nichols there, leading off the line with more hull speed and giving your opponent a penalty. So perfect last 30 seconds of that start there.
So Matt, you've been able to beat Sienna twice in regatta. Do you want to go after her again?
Unfortunately, I'm an old man now. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think I wouldn't be very pleased to see her across the crowded starting line. She's awesome.
Yeah,
and Matt is married. He's not going to go after anybody.
I meant in yachting terms.
Oh, I wasn't sure what you meant. I saw Dr. Bray raise his eyebrows up there, wondering, too, what we were talking about.
You know, you have such a dirty mind, even.
Oh, I went to Michigan. You know?
That's true, yeah.
You guys that went to Stanford and Harvard and Yale.
And make sure Tom doesn't get us cancelled, Andy.
What's that?
Said make sure Tom doesn't get us cancelled.
Yeah, exactly.
Cancel. Our ratings
See
are
in the
going
comments
up.
section, there's some irate people.
Right, this is a children's program.
This is a family program, but I'm looking at the comments, and our viewership is going up.
Excellent.
Looking like a dial.
And you know what that is? Another innovation by Chris Bretschger. That is onboard audio for the first time in the history of the Governor's Cup, and that is from on board of Jeffrey Peterson's yacht in the pre-start. They're not.
This is our test day.
Our test day
on
for that, and tomorrow we'll have the 2 finalists with onboard audio.
Jeffrey Peterson is in boat 4. He's the yellow boat against Cole Tapper in blue, boat 10.
Tell you guys, one of the other matches, I know this won't really affect the overall standings, but Hyde and Pinkney have not been more than a length apart this entire race. They're just coming down
Look at that.
to the finish line here. And
Yep.
there were a few colourful words said at the bottom mark.
Well, I'll tell you, if Josh loses this race, that's not a great way to go into the semifinals.
Let's listen from onboard Jeffrey's boat.
All right, here's Jeffrey.
Okay, so they're just at the far end of our range for onboard audio off the yachts, but a tough pre-start here going on, Matt.
Yeah, very, very light at the moment. The pressure's slightly down in a little bit of a hole. It's going to fill through by start time, but, you know, just really trying to build speed. You see the boats, even though they're so powered up, are struggling to get going out of that dial-up. Jeffrey Peterson leading away with about 1 minute 35 to go, so very good position to be at the top of the committee boat with 1:35. Jeffrey can do a loose circle round and come back, and he gets to pick a time where it makes it really awkward for Cole to decide whether he wants to lead or follow as he rolls into his jibe onto starboard.
You know, I've said this before, but both Jeffrey and Cole have this relaxed sort of vibe going here. You know, they're looking around, not stressed or anything like that. You know, you see with Justin, Callahan and Hyde, it's quite a different sort of dynamic on board, or different sort of body language. These guys look relaxed and you know, they're just ready to take each manoeuvre as it comes.
Yes, Cole Tapper rolls round maybe 30 seconds from the committee boat with 45 seconds to go. Jeffrey Peterson going on top, so he's going to try and slow down now. With the light breeze as a general rule, leading back in is always a good thing to do.
Yeah, it really has gotten light. It's not too bad up the course. It's gotten very light here at the start.
Yeah, it looks like within the minute of this race starting, it's going to go the breeze is going to build and potentially go a little bit further right.
And press.
Oh,
So
boy, look at this.
Cole trying to tack into leeward there, and he's going to try and pin Jeffrey to windward, so because he can't bear away. Jeffrey with hull speed though.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey can get over his bow.
53 seconds.
Okay, still quite early.
He's going to be coming down here at 130. Careful with blades. We're good. We're on like 40 seconds. About boat right there.
Oh, this is good.
So he's happy to turn up inside.
Okay, we're back on board with Jeffrey. Okay. We will continue to work on that, folks, because it is kind of interesting at sometimes in the race to listen to the crews on board. But at any rate, not surprising, this will be a pretty even start.
So probably advantage Peterson though, because Cole's just a little bit stuck up in this pin end, this committee boat here. He's going to struggle to build too much speed.
Yeah. Tapper's not going to lay the committee boat here either,
right.
So this will be a bit of a down speed tack off the line or a shoot of the committee boat.
Yeah, but Jeffrey's not going very fast over there.
Yep.
He's just managed to pinch over the top of the committee boat. It actually wasn't too much of a.
No.
I take my my words back there. He managed to lay that just nicely.
Yep, he did indeed.
Well, like the look of the right here too, Andy.
The
bottom right of the course seems to have a little bit more pressure, and we see Peterson now tacking back over to follow.
Yep.
Yeah, and Tapper's just been headed there. A bit of a right shift as well. His jib just backed a little bit, so that agrees that there's going to be right-hand shift coming, and Tapper's just trying to dig into the pressure here and get hopefully for him, a good lift on starboard across.
You see Tapper now. He's going to exactly the place that Tommy Spithill said it was a good place, which is the lower to starboard of the weather mark. So heading towards the shore, which quite often is a great thing in Newport Beach.
Cole Tapper in boat 10 with Jack Freeman and Hamish Voss representing the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, last year's runner-up. Tacking on to starboard now, heading toward Jeffrey Peterson, who's also sailing with 3 up, representing Balboa Yacht Club, and it's going to be...
Tapper tacked in a really, really slow place, so Jeffrey's going to cross him here.
Yeah,
Tapper just got a header, too. Oh, boy, Jeffrey called that perfectly there.
Yeah, he unfortunately got a couple of bad waves, and as you said, Andy, his jib was inside out as he came out of the tack there into a massive header.
Yep.
Jeffrey sailing with Daniel Pegg and Enzo Mendita.
So Jeffrey, too, it's interesting here. He didn't tack right on Cole as he could have, because I guarantee he is looking at that water and saying, I will do that, but not yet, because I don't want to go be in that hole that Cole still seems to be in with a bit of a left shift. Now, having said that, if Cole can sail into more breeze and tack onto port, which he's doing now, and get lifted, then he's going to look pretty good. But here comes Jeffrey across. It's still a very close race.
And the interesting thing with Jeffrey to note is that all these boats upwind travel at a similar pace, but when they come out of attack, it takes them a while to hit their optimum speed, and Jeffrey seems to really be able to get up to his target speed, as us sailors say, very, very quickly, and that makes a massive difference out of each manoeuvre.
Yep, that's for sure.
It looks like his turn rate is just a little bit faster than everyone else. He's just pushing the tiller over a little bit more. That helps get the boat through and building speed on the new tack a little, just 1 second, 2 seconds quicker.
He has the luxury now of doing sort of a loose cover, but Cole, doing the basic match race tactic that you don't want to be on the same tack with the other boat, but there was no danger of him being in any disturbed air there.
So at the moment, I'd say about a 2 to 3 length boat length lead to Peterson at the moment.
Hey, Tommy, while we've got you, describe these roll tacks, because we see the sailors, great coverage here from the drone, the sailors staying on the new leeward side for quite a long time and then hopping over to the new windward side. Why do they do that?
A few reasons. So with their body weight, they're actually steering the boat. So if they jump to the leeward side of the boat, it actually will turn the boat towards the wind. So that effectively means you can use less rudder. Less rudder means less drag through the water. And what they're able to then do, they start with the weight to leeward, the boat heels, and then they jump to the windward side of the boat. With all that inertia, the boat can get a pump out of the tack. Now, there is a rule saying, you're not supposed to come out of tack faster than what you go into it, but some of these guys are really pushing it, and I think you sort of have to. You have to get a warning. As I told one of the teams, you know, if you haven't had a warning from the umpires that you're sort of getting close, and you're not pushing it hard enough. But so that's the reason we see these tacking this way. And since it's light air, they really hold their weight down. As you can see, Cole here tacking. The sails will swap sides. The boat will get heel, and then they all move together as one unit.
Okay, Cole is caught up here. He did exactly what I said. If this happens, he will gain some, and it did. He went out, finally got some more pressure, and was able to actually come up underneath Jeffrey a little bit when Jeffrey was in that less pressure streak. So it's still a very close race up there.
Yeah, probably about 2.5 lengths here. They've got about 15 more seconds of sailing to the top mark. Jeffrey is on purpose sailing well above the top mark to ensure that Tapper has a bit of his dirty air as he comes into the top mark here. So we'll probably see an early hoist from Tapper because he's now a length above the top mark.
Yep.
This is the end of leg 1 of 4. They're going around the top mark to starboard, meaning on their starboard or right side, and they go downwind with the kites up, the spinnakers up on leg 2, then back upwind for leg 3, and then a final downwind leg 4 to the finish.
Virtually perfect sets on both boats, so no advantage there.
We'll see a matching jibe here from Tapper.
So we'll see these boats both go very hot out of this, so almost reaching, not actually going downwind. Tapper trying to project his kite onto Peterson's kite, and Peterson trying to keep his breeze clear out front. So if you see Peterson's kite, the blue kite leeward, start to wobble a little bit, come into the boat, that's a good sign for Tapper. If you don't see that, good sign for Peterson.
Well, Tom, you asked the question earlier about the boat behind in this situation, and one thing that we didn't talk too much about is basically you can see that, yeah, he's trying to affect the wind, but the puffs in a situation like this where it's very puffy, so there'll be a little more breeze here and there.
Here comes an aggressive luff from Peterson here.
Yep. The boat.
Tapper responding.
Tapper keeping
no
clear.
foul at the moment. No one's bothered to protest yet. Okay, now Jeffrey thinks that he has had a piece of in there. I think this will be a green flag, and it is. But Tapper's now really lost a bit of pace here, so it's going to take him a little bit to get the bow down. But really good boat kinetics there, but Tapper's getting away a lot with his... We're talking about Rule 42. He's been very dynamic with his weight. He's really pushing the limits of...
I like that term, Tom. He's being very dynamic with his weight.
Yes, that's right.
Really
but
good
I think it's
move.
great. I mean, I think that's what the people being... You know, the agility and moving around the boats, I think that's something that we shouldn't be penalised. If people are really throwing their body at it and being really aggressive with their weight, I think it's a good thing for the sport.
Yeah, I think in these cases, definitely. Now look at this, and here again, the puff's coming down. You know, if you get it 2 to 3 seconds earlier, you know, that's a half a boat length, basically. And so Cole now trying to do the same thing, trying to roll Jeffrey, but Jeffrey doing a great job so far of hanging in. And remember, right now, the leeward mark, the gates, are down to the right of your screen, well down the screen to the right, so they're not going anywhere near the right course.
We've got another big luff here, but I think Tapper was maybe half a metre clear, so this will be another green flag.
Yep.
But he's now extended over him, and he's actually going to be able to complete a jibe on the starboard. And now the positions are reversed. It's actually Tapper to leeward and Peterson to windward. This is turning out to be a really good race.
What a surprise, huh?
Well, this could be a preview. You know, I don't want to jinx any of these two teams here, but this may be a final series that's going to go down to the wire. You know, and we're getting a little bit of a sneak preview with this race.
Okay, and here comes Cole trying to do the same thing again to Jeffrey.
So here Cole's looking to hold in here and stop Peterson jibing, because they are high of the leeward mark ley line here, so they do need to jibe onto port. So if Peterson thinks he can jibe, he's going to jibe and try and get across the bow, and Cole's doing everything he can to stop.
Peterson's trimmer's done a really nice job there. They got a little wave, and he actually managed to get a bit of brace back here and soak down. It's too close to call here. If I don't think Peterson has the gauge.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that would
here he goes though. He's going to have a crack.
He is. Let's see.
Well, he obviously does, because if Tapper didn't think he didn't have the gauge, he would have held there.
He would have kept going.
Knew.
And Tapper's looking to roll over here, do the same as he just did the last time.
And I think we can expect another luff here. Oh, no, Peterson's lost his shoot here. So...
You see Tapper so much faster there with that little wobble on Peterson's kite. That just really kills the speed, and Tapper's able to come into these leeward marks nice and fast.
Problem is here, I think Peterson's going to have a little bit of a better rounding here with the right turn.
Yeah, Cole
Well, I
Tapper
take
has
that back now. He is dead. He is quite low into the mark here, so both boats are going to have a bit of a hard turn. We'll see them round the gates pretty much at the same time here. I'm not sure, Matt. Who do you think's come out better out of that?
Give me 5 minutes and I'll tell you.
Yeah, no problem.
I think it's 50-50 there. You know, Peterson a little bit more of a sharp turn, but a little bit further ahead. So it's whoever sails fast and gets this first shift on the downwind. This is very similar to a normal pre-start where it's a split tack starts, but it's just on the second leg now. So who gets that first shift, the header, the bit more pressure. I think it looks like Tapper is sailing into a really good bit of pressure coming down this middle right of the course. So I think he might get a bit of a right shift and come across on starboard tack quite well.
It's turning out to be a great race. We've already had a lead change, and I'm guessing we're going to see possibly another lead change on this beat.
And I think we're going to see a lot more lead changes whenever these guys sail. So hopefully we get 5 more of them.
Leg 3, they're headed upwind to the windward mark. The second time, they'll round it to starboard, come back downwind to the finish. Off to the right, boat 10 is Cole Tapper, last year's runner-up, racing against Jeffrey Peterson, who's at the top of the leaderboard. Cole in second place coming out of the rounds, unless Cole wins this match, in which case he'll come out of the rounds robin on top and have his choice of his semifinalist opponent.
Looks like Cole Tapper's bow is just a little bit further up. Even pressure, but Tapper's just got a little bit of a lift on port tack here, so he doesn't want to tack over, even though he might think he might be able to come in clear ahead, because he would come back on a header, so he's just waiting for a right-hand shift, just waiting and waiting, and he's got to hope that comes.
Andy Rose, it's 15 minutes before 2. It's 13:45 here in Newport Beach. What do you like, the right or the left this time of day in your home waters?
Because I get closer to the mark, I'd probably prefer the right. But this is not a typical westerly where it starts in the morning and builds. Because normally right now, Tom, as you know, we'd end up with 11 or 12 knots of breeze, and that's just not happening. So I think you're right, Matt. I think the lower right paid. Let's see here.
Yeah, so Tapper's on the starboard tack ley line. I think at the it's too close to call, and I'm only a few lengths away from the guys here.
I think Peterson's slightly ahead, but maybe not with a full cross.
And he can't, and that's what Peterson was showing right there, that he couldn't get up to him, could not cover him, in other words, be directly ahead of him. So is basically conceded. We'll try to go out with speed, get little lefty maybe, and then tack onto port and either be able to cross him or be right with him at the mark.
Well, it'll be interesting here to see if Tapper actually tacks at the mark. He may look like he's going to go for a set here, but what you might find is he'll hold Peterson out here and wait until Peterson's down speed before he attempts to go. But no, he's just going to go around the mark.
Yep.
I think that was a good move there, just because Peterson was a little bit wide there, so there is still a boat length of separation between, which, you know, just take that boat length when you got it and have another good downwind and back yourself to trim downwind.
Peterson with another perfect set. Cole's quite good. But look at this. I mean, this is match racing, guys and ladies. This is awesome. And now they'll play the same game. Will Peterson try to go over him and roll him, or try to stay down and hold him and keep him from jibing until they come into the finish on a tighter reach?
A bit of chop here just from the umpires, and the both trimmers having a bit of a hard time keeping the chute set, but they're doing a good job. You know, when you're going through the chop, as they go for another jibe here, but as you're going through bad waves, you just got to remember you've got to get through those bad waves better than the boat that's beside you. You know, they're having to deal with the same.
Okay, Tom, at this point, Jeffrey is in the position of being to windward and may well roll him here. Jeffrey's and his crew, Enzo Medito and Daniel Pegg, just a superb job on that jibe.
Although I think Tapper did a really good job of jibing when he was a tiniest bit faster than Peterson, just so he's able to get his bow round and in front a little bit, because it looks like he's still got good pressure on his kite. He looks a little bit like he's getting wind in front of Peterson's kite. So doing a really good job there of actually rolling around faster with the hull speed to be able to keep clear breeze and keep that kite projected.
I think you're right, Matt. I think you're right, Matty. I think he has survived this exchange. We've had one lead change. I thought we were about to have another, Andy, with Peterson going by. But now he's getting a little bow forward. His air is still forward, as the sailors like to say, meaning he's not being blocked. Tapper's wind is not being blocked by Peterson as they start now to head a little bit lower toward the finish line.
So here Peterson is setting up. He's going to have to try and roll on the other jibe. So he's going to want to lead the jibe. Yeah,
And
so
he is
Peterson
doing it.
going for the jibe there. So now he's thinking we got a lot of time on port to come in. I want to get on top of him and come back in on starboard to place my jibe on top of Tapper rather than let Tapper dictate terms.
And I think Cole is doing exactly the right thing here. You don't want, in that situation, Cole would not have wanted to jibe instantaneously with Jeffrey. He wants to stay out here with his air clear. But here comes Jeffrey now on starboard tack. So were they to be close, which they still, Cole will cross him. So Jeffrey's trying everything in the book, but so far.
Yeah,
It's pretty impressive with Tapper when Jeffrey jibed to weather of him before. He managed to just still hold his nerve and not get sucked up into Jeffrey to try and luff him. He was able to keep low and keep the same pace as Peterson.
Yep.
One thing to note here is the pin end is a little bit biased, so expect to see Tapper try and stay over on that side and try and just get within 2 boat lengths. And then once he's within 2 boat lengths of that pin end, that yellow buoy on your screen, then he's able to go around the mark and Peterson has to give him room.
Here comes Jeffrey, and here comes Cole.
So now Tapper within 2 boat lengths. Even if Peterson is on starboard and can get to him, he has to give Tapper room to round that mark.
It's interesting here. We'll have to find out from Jeffrey. He keeps mentioning something to the umpires. So whether he's protesting, he just did a little flag there at the end, but I think he's sort of pleading with umpires that Tapper's maybe doing a Rule 42 violation.
Really?
So the umpires have been waved over by Peterson, so it'll be interesting if we can find out what he's discussing.
Yeah, Tom, I'll check with the umpires on our radio link after this, but that was an amazing race we've just witnessed. We saw the lead change. We saw then Jeffrey continue to attack, and as the three of you have pointed out, Cole Tapper responded beautifully and maintained just a bit of an edge downhill on that final leg to keep his air forward and clear and lead barely into the finish line. There's some other marks. The orange marks don't matter on that. That's the gate marks from the previous legs. The yellow mark is the pin end. And Matt, what did you mean when you said you thought the pin end was a bit biased?
So looking along from our perfect vantage point here, you can see that the orange mark is slightly further upwind. So coming off the start line, it's further upwind, closer to the top mark. So there's a little bit shorter distance to sail. And then the same vice versa on the downwind. Because you cross the line the opposite way, the mark being further upwind, the mark is further upwind than the committee boat. It's a little bit less distance.
So it's favored. The pin is, when you say biased, meaning favored to go to that end because it's a little closer.
Yeah, half a boat length, but you see those 2 boats were overlapped when they crossed the finish line. That's
good point.
Margins is very important in those close races.
So, Commodores, Tom Purcell, who's down below, Commodore Pete Bretschger, who's down below here on Adios. Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very interesting conclusion to the 57th edition of the GovCup, the round-robin phase. This has been just astonishing because in the last match of the last flight, Cole Tapper has gone to the top of the leaderboard, tying Jeffrey Peterson in a win-loss record of what, 21-1, right? 22 and 1.
20 and 2.
20 and 2. 20 and 2. Our crack spotter's correcting me. Thank you. 20 and 2. But the tie break goes, Andy, to?
Well, in this case, to Cole, because in the second round robin, he beat Jeffrey by all of 6 feet. So I just want to say that, when we talk about what a great match race that really was. And what you see in great match races with two incredible opponents is that they're all making the right moves. When they're behind, they make the right move. When they're ahead, they make the right move. So it's very, to see those lead changes, it's just, it's the best it gets. This really is.
Yeah, on that first downwind, they both made the right move every time. It's just can you do everything perfectly and get that little bit of luck sometimes? And Cole Tapper gained that little bit and was able to hold on.
Here, I'm looking to go tune into the race committee here.
Callahan with 13. The following after that is fifth place is Morgan Pinkney with 12. Sixth place is Tom Higgins with 10. Seventh is Marcelo Torre with 10. 8 is Daniel Kemp with 8. Ninth place is Robbie McCutcheon with 7.5. 10th place is Nicholas Burnell with 7. 11th is Sienna Nichols with 6. And 12th is Dylan C. with 4. The top 4 teams will stay, and we're going to commence the semifinals. The rest of the people can stay and watch if they want to tie up to a spectator boat. That's welcome to do that, or they can start sailing in. Copy?
That was Principal Race Officer Dr. Don Becker, who just ran through the standings. He, before I got the race committee there on the air with us, he'd gone through the top 4, confirming that Cole Tapper has in fact won the round robin phase. He will get to choose, Andy, his semifinal opponent, whether it be Jeffrey Peterson, doubtful, or Justin Callahan, or who's the 4th place boat, or Josh Hyde. What would you do?
That's a tough one. I think if Justin had sailed the way we expected him today, but didn't happen, I would not have chosen Justin. But I think I'd probably choose Josh Hyde. That's sort of a gut instinct. But what do you think, Matt?
I kind of agree with you. I think Justin has the USP of he is a brilliant fleet racer, and sometimes out here the sailing becomes a little bit of a fleet race, and that's one skill set that if Justin is the better of the two, I would rather not have him have that competitive advantage should the conditions be that way. Yeah. So, however, I wouldn't really want to race any of them.
No, I agree with that. Well, I think, Justin has proven in this regatta already that he can rise to the occasion, but, he's coming off not a great start to today, but, he now knows that that's all gone. Now it's just a few races to see if I can get into the finals, and nobody's going to care what happened in the round robin, so.
The scoreboard's 0-0 on all semifinals now.
Yep.
So,
gentlemen, I've just spoken with Dr. Don Becker on the race committee boat. He is calling the 4 semifinalists over, and he is going to ask Mr. Tapper, as he calls him, Cole Tapper, which team he would like to race in the semifinal. His semifinal. That will be the second of the 2 semifinal flights. The first flight will be the other pair. Presumably, Cole is not going to choose Jeffrey. Matt Whitfield, if you were Cole Tapper, whom would you choose?
We just said I would probably choose Daniel Kemp.
Daniel Kemp?
Sorry. I mean, choose someone who does worse. Sorry, wrong words.
Justin Callahan, or?
I would choose Josh Hyde. I think Justin Callahan's a very, very quick sailor through the water, and I think that it gives a bit of risk there.
So you'd choose the 3rd place boat, not the 4th place boat?
I would personally, yep.
Do you think there's an Aussie-Kiwi component to that, psychologically, choosing the cross-Tasman rival?
I mean, Cole has sailed against them more, so he might have a a slight difference of opinion in that because he's sailed and doesn't like sailing against him, or does like sailing against him.
Okay.
So,
well, there you have it from Matt Whitfield. Do we have Tom Spithill on the air here with us?
Yeah, have you got me there, Tom?
Yeah, we do. Hey, Tommy, we've got so many Toms involved here, we have to call you Tommy and me something else. Hey, who would you choose if you are Cole Tapper?
Well, the interesting thing, we saw that race, the Peterson versus Hyde race, and Peterson, he was a bit unlucky. He had a bit of traffic off the pin end start. He was behind, and then he just put his speed skates on and just made Hyde, look like he was going at half the pace. So, I'd say, with all respect to Hyde's crew, I think the Peterson and Tapper have just got a speed edge, and with Justin, we've seen him have that edge, but it just depends on what sort of day he's having. But I mean, I'd love to see Cole pick Jeffrey now. I think that'd just for the mental games that it might play here. Cole's sailing really well. He's just beaten him. It'd be interesting to see if he did something bold. I'd love if he went and actually picked Peterson now.
Would you pick Peterson now, Tommy?
If I was Cole, maybe, but no, I wouldn't. Jeffrey would make easy work of me, that's for sure. But I think for Cole, the way he's sailing at the moment, and just for the head games, it'd be quite interesting to see how they deal with the pressure. I've said Cole just looks. I haven't seen him look this composed ever before. He's never heard. He hasn't raised his voice at the umpires or milked any penalties or anything like that. He's just sort of methodically going through and beating people. So who knows? I mean, I reckon that'd make a good press release for you to write.
Yeah, I wonder if we can ask one of our crack spotters, both of our crack spotters up here. Christine Gribben is up here, and Ethan Schneider's down below. But Christine, can you do the research to see what the records are? But we'll probably know the answer before we get that. The win-loss between Cole and either Justin or Josh, just to see if you can quickly see either. Now we have back up here Ethan Snyder is with us also, our two fantastic spotters this year. Without them, we can't do this six-ring circus of a broadcast out here on the water. They're going to take a look and just see what historically who beat who in the rounds robin as between Cole Tapper and the other two. We know what went on with Jeffrey. They split 1-1. That is Cole Tapper and Jeff Peterson. If you're just joining us, we're out here on the Pacific Ocean waiting for the start of the semifinals. It's 1400, 2 p.m. And Matt Whitfield thinks he already has the answer as to who beat who in the rounds robin, Cole Tapper and...
Yeah, so Cole Tapper beat Justin Callahan in both round robin matches. However, him and Josh Hyde went 1-1 in the round robin. So that would make you lean, if you were Cole Tapper, to either picking Jeffrey Peterson with a 1-1 record, as Tommy Spithill wants to see, and or picking... would be picking Justin Callahan because you beat him twice and you beat the others once and lost once.
Okay, our crack spotters are confirming that analysis by Matt Whitfield, and I think this is a no-brainer. I'd be picking Justin Callahan, who's had an up-and-down regatta. Dr. Bray, who would you choose? He'd go Callahan, too. And Dr. Bray, who's a superb sailor, Balboa Yacht Club member, sponsoring this regatta again this year, for which we are entirely grateful. Spine, Disc, and Spine and Sports Center here in Newport Beach. And I would pick Justin Callahan. Yeah. We're looking at the comments. Put on the comments, because between Chris Bretschger and I, we are trying to read your comments. We're streaming this live to 4 different channels, to the Balboa Yacht Club YouTube channel, to the GovCup, the BYC GovCup Facebook page, the Sailing Illustrated's Facebook page, and to my personal Facebook page, because there's 5,000 friends on there, most of whom are sailors, who love this stuff, as do we.
Yeah, Tom, I just want to see those two race again. I mean, they're actually sailing at a tour level. I think, you know, both Andy, Matt, and yourself would agree. Like that race there, that could be in an open world match racing championship. That sort of sailing that we're seeing from both Peterson and Tapper. So it's quite a treat and a rarity to have such. Well, I guess it's not rare. In recent times, we've had world #1 competing here in this event, but to have this standard at under 23 events is unbelievable.
Totally agree. And my learned friend, I think you may be right, but I suspect we're going to see them racing again in the finals. That is Tapper and Peterson with different semifinal opponents. But we shall soon see. As they are assembled on the back of the, do we have a shot of that, Chris? The back end of the race committee boat. You can see the sailors over there gathered with Dr. Don Becker, the skippers anyway, having a consult over there on the format and how they're going to do this. As I said a minute ago, Don Becker told us that the first match, the first flight actually, and what is we call the first match in the 23rd flight, the semifinals, round 1, will be not the winner and whom he chooses, but the other two. And we will race 2 semifinal matches today. It's first to win 3, and then tonight at the press conference at 1900 Pacific, Andy will interview all 4 semifinalist skippers. And then tomorrow the semifinals will continue with live racing out here at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. We'll do a morning show, of course, at 9, previewing the day's racing. And we are hearing from the race committee boat now. Signal Media.
Yeah, the draw's been completed. Mr. Tapper has chosen Mr. Callahan to sail against. They will start in the second start. Tapper will be yellow, Callahan will be blue. First start will be Peterson in yellow and Hyde in blue.
Did you get that, Christine? Hyde in blue. And did you say, Dr. Don, the first match, yellow and blue again, please?
First match, first start will be Peterson in yellow, Hyde in blue.
Peterson yellow, Hyde in blue. Peterson yellow, Hyde in blue. Copy that. Thank you very much. That's the first match in the semifinals. And then Callahan and Tapper in the second match, as confirmed now by the principal race officer, Dr. Don Becker, who's been doing this, by the way, for some 35 years, I think longer than that even, on the race committee. He's been chairing it for, I don't know, something upwards to 20 years. And it's really nice when you have the same regatta chair, Christine Gribben, year after year after year, and the same PRO. And now, Maddie, how long have you, Andy, and I done commentary?
I think it's 3 years.
Is it 3?
Now? I think 3.
And
maybe more. I forget. I'm getting old. I forget stuff now.
Yes, well, you're married too. That's the other thing, you know. The mind goes before the body, as O.L. Pitts used to say. And then, of course, we've had Tommy. We're blessed to have Tommy with us. Tommy Spithill up from Australia. One of the best coaches, one of the best sailors in that country. And, of course, from the super-duper sailing family, the Spithill family. His less famous brother, Jimmy Spithill, I call him tongue-in-cheek less famous because he's only won the America's Cup twice. And he's sailing for Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli in the next Cup, and so he's got another crack at it. And then they have a sister, Katie, who may be better than both of them. Is that right, Tommy?
That's right. My claim to fame is I'm the only one in my family to have won the GovCup on the bow twice. Katie and James both tried here and failed miserably, I'd say.
The other teams will be hanging out watching, and they will, however, Andy, be racing the other teams in match races for 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th. Tomorrow, first to win 2 in those series. How does that work and why?
Well, first you want to keep people sailing.
Hang on, start over, Andrew.
Okay. First you want to keep people sailing, but second, it's important to go the 1 to 12 and know who did what on the overall record at the end. So those races are necessary. And, you know, there's a ranking system worldwide. And, you know, a couple points, a couple places above where you were is a good thing. You get more points.
Cool format. I like the format a lot. And congratulations to you and Christine and the steering committee who year after year turn out this fabulous regatta, which, what is this going to be, grade 1?
Well, it's, you know, Tom, they've adopted that new youth ranking system because some of the older 24 and 25-year-olds were saying that the under 23s were getting ranking points that, you know, and so now it's, I don't know. I don't even know how it works anymore. There's a youth system, and most of the top youth ranked sailors are here. But I'll tell you, Tom and Matt, that was a grade 1 race with those two.
Yeah, I think whatever the ranking officially says and the grading says, everyone knows that it is compatible with being a grade 1 in terms of organization and...
Sorry, Matt.
Constellation rounds will stay out to watch.
Okay, that's just advice again, repeating what we said a moment ago. Sorry, go ahead, Matt, please.
Yeah, like the organization, and because it's not just the sailing, the competitors who define whether something's a grade 1. There's metrics that need to be met with organization and umpires, and GovCup definitely comes through into grade 1 quality in both, even if World Sailing does not officially recognize it.
Yeah, well, we were actually regraded grade 1 in 2018, had the same sort of results and quality of skippers in 2019, and the request for regrading was sent in and never heard from again. So you never know with World Sailing what's going on, but the point is that we meet all those other criteria as far as having the boats, the international group of umpires, etc. And, you know, certainly at the top of this fleet, Jeffrey has already proven he's been sailing a couple of races on the World Match Race Tour and doing very well. You know, they're as good as anybody out there right now.
Umpires, media, Channel 5.
And one of the unique things about the Governor's Cup is all these teams are actually training a lot more than a lot of the teams on the World Match Race Tour, because this is a lot of what they do. Like at Balboa Yacht Club, there's the youth training program, the same with the CYCA. So although these guys might be younger, they're probably doing more days match racing practice than a lot of the top level teams on the World Match Race Tour. So
no, I think you're exactly right. We should also, in that breath, mention the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, which of course has a tremendous youth development program. But yeah, they're doing it more. And remember what we said before is, I think more than any other discipline in the sport, the more your learning curve is much steeper in match racing. The more you match race, the better you get at it. So more races equals better sailors.
Usually,
and that's right. The wind looks like it's filled in a little bit here, Matty. You think? I don't see as many glassy spots.
Yeah, the wind's definitely a little bit more consistent across the race course. Like it looks like to the south, off to the left of the race course, it's a little bit lighter, but generally, like on this race course all the way across, it looks relatively consistent. Definitely a lot less holes than there were, maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock in those first couple of races.
Ethan Snyder, one of our ace spotters here, can you just look at the compass and give me a guess at what the wind direction is? Yeah, so that's a typical. That was predicted. That's a southwest to west, which is the prevailing breeze here in the summer. It's starting to get later in the afternoon. We may see a little increase if we're lucky. That would be a normal situation. But I see the marine layer is still hanging out there. You can't see Catalina, so I think the predictions it's never going to get very windy are true. But you know, you've seen that race. I mean, there was no problem with the wind conditions in that race.
No, the boats are brilliant.
That was an exceptional match race, period.
And the racing is superb as usual. We had a fog bank roll in yesterday about halfway through the afternoon, 45 minutes where the visibility went down to something less than 100 meters. But the racing continued. The umpires were up close and personal, making the calls, no problem. There was a snarky statement in the press release that we wrote in tongue-in-cheek completely, saying that, yeah, even though there was fog, the umpires were still making calls about as well as usual, as good as usual, which is damning with faint praise if ever there was. But we told Damien, the chair, the chump, chief umpires. It's not a pejorative, chump.
Well, we should mention that Damien is back for his second year in a row, and I'm told in umpire world that is very unusual to ask someone to come back saying they like to move the chump job around. Is that true, Christine Gribben?
I think he bribed Christine Gribben.
Well, he may have, but he's terrific. And
Christine just said he was so good last year, but I think he brought her some Vegemite from Australia. And she's
God.
you have a Vegemite fetish, Christine.
oh God.
Even it's a kid show.
I mean, I love everything about Australia
a
except for
family show.
Vegemite.
Well, Matt, how do you like Vegemite, or do you like that stuff you eat in the UK?
Marmite.
We have Marmite. No, I'm in the I hate it camp. I don't love it. I absolutely hate it.
Well, now that you are a transplanted Brit to the U.S., how do you like peanut butter?
Oh, it's kind of funny. I'm actually allergic to peanut butter.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're like Patrick then.
Man.
I like peanuts and I like butter, but when they go together, it just makes me feel a bit queasy. I found that out at GovCup the first year one day. We had peanut butter sandwiches, and I didn't feel great that evening.
And what happened? This is a family show.
I went to the hospital and didn't feel too great. You know, I went to the surgery and it was all okay. I came out and then came sailing the next day. But that was a tough way to find out.
Okay, gents, let's get a little more serious here for the moment and preview these two semifinal matches. Coming up, the first match will be Josh Hyde from New Zealand against Jeffrey Peterson, as we've just heard the foxtrot signal, the attention signal. And it's first to win 3. Let's go around the horn. Andy, who wins this semifinal match and why?
I think Peterson wins the first semifinal. He's more experienced than Hyde. He's older. He's about to age out. Hyde is only 20, and he's just sailing brilliantly.
What score?
You know, I'm tempted to say 3-0.
You are. Matt?
Yeah.
I'd agree with Andy, but I think 3-1, which looks like Rob Bray also agrees with me.
Rob Bray is saying 3-1 with his fingers. That was a middle. No, it's not a middle finger on the one side. Tommy Spithill, your prediction for this first semifinal, if we may impose on your wisdom.
No, with the greatest respect to Hyde, but I think it's going to be 3-0. I agree with Andy. I mean, seeing what Peterson did to him in the earlier match today, I think he's just got an extra gear. And as I was saying, he's out of tax. He just gets his boat back up to target speed. That's Jeffrey Peterson and his crew. So I see 3-0.
Okay, I'm not going to take a position because one of us has to remain neutral as we're closing in on the starting sequence for this first match.
So then he can pretend he predicted it right.
Well, exactly, if I don't say frankly, I agree with Dr. Bray. I think Josh Hyde will take a match off Jeffrey, and it'll be 3-1, would be my guess if I had to, but of course I'm not going to predict. Christine, you have a prediction? Christine Gribben? She is really staying. Oh, you agree with 3-1. How about Tapper Callahan, Andy?
Justin has the talent to beat Cole, but I don't think he will. I think the not match racing mostly for the last year, I think has hurt Callahan a little bit. And Tapper, of course, has and sailed in a lot of the regattas and done very well. So I think Tapper maybe 3-1.
We're less than a minute to the entry, so what do you think, Matt?
I think 3-1 as well, Tapper. I struggle to see Callahan winning more than he loses against him. I think Tapper's just got a bit of a boat handling edge over Tapper. I think the 3 people, if you sail it well, is a bit better, and I think Tapper's doing that right now.
Tommy?
Yeah, 3-0 for Tapper. I've just seen Peterson and Tapper at another level. You know, I think they're slick around the course. They're not making mistakes, and they've got boat speed. They're looking they're just looking so composed.
Thank you, Tom. We'll soon see, as this is about the entry. Peterson with yellow entering from the starboard end in boat 4, and Hyde entering from the port end with boat 6. Andrew.
Well, here we go. I was just looking here, Tom. The marine layer seems to be getting closer to us.
What is the marine layer, quickly?
Marine layer is just the difference between the cold water and the warm air, which forms an inversion, and actually it's a fog-like. It's sort of a higher fog there. But okay, well, let's go to this start. Typical dial-up. Again, both boats approach on different tacks through the starting line, must get below the starting line within a minute, and then engage. And the starboard tack boat, of course, has right of way and can always make the port tack boat do what is exactly happened here.
So right now you've got the skippers making sure that they keep the boat head to wind, so they're using their bowman who's sitting up holding the jib, and instead of trimming it via the sail, via the sheets, they're just going to have their hand on the clue and just move it left and move it right, just to really make sure that they can project it out and turn the boat faster as they both bail out on port.
So basically with this, the rules are different than they were originally in match racing, and with these rules, it really makes about the first minute or minute and a half sort of not very consequential in the big scheme of things.
It's not consequential once they break up out of the dial-up like this, as you say. However, it can be consequential because someone could get a penalty in that pre-start. So if they get a penalty there, that's early on. And potentially the starboard boat, if they can hold that dial-up for more than a minute, if they can hold it for the whole 4-minute sequence, then they have an advantage leading back to the line.
I've seldom seen that done in these boats.
And just talking about the scores, our predictions, you know, when we say 3-0, I don't mean someone's going to be, you know, winning by 8 lengths. These could be races won by half a length on the line, you know. I think this is still going to be a very exciting semi-finalist. These both, you know, Hyde, well, all the semi-finalists have earned their spot here, and anyone can take a race. I just think when the pressure's on here, Peterson and Tapper just seem to be prevailing.
Tommy, you're backtracking on it. You going for New South Wales Congress next time?
No, I'm still agreeing with my 3-0. I just don't want to. I'm not making out this is going to be a boring semis. I think it's going to be an awesome semi-finals. I just think these guys, whether they win by, I don't think they're going to be winning by a massive margin, but I think my picks are going to just do enough.
Foreign Minister, Matt.
So we got 1 minute 15 to go. Peterson leading in maybe 25 seconds plus a spin up. So, you know, Peterson here trying to keep this race down to leeward, killing time by going slow and away from the line. Doing a really good job. Hyde's going to spin up and try and bring this towards the start line.
1 minute.
Very typical start here. One boat pushing, the other boat trying to maintain the lead into the left or pin end of the line.
Peterson doing a really good job here of keeping them down away from the line, so as when they want to go up, they can go and they can do a run to that pin end on that lay line. So there, Peterson calling that he's on. Peterson's bowman calling that he's on the pin lay, so that means that he's right on the edge of being able to make it over the top of that yellow mark, which is the other end of the start line. So he doesn't want to go down anymore. Five seconds to go. Both boats really trying to go full speed across the line here. Really nice job from Peterson by getting towards that pin end and being at the biased end of the line.
Looking up the track, gentlemen, it's getting a little softer, but which side do you like, Andy?
I think as this comes in, I'd probably want the left.
That is the marine layer that you're saying?
Yeah.
Tommy, what do you see?
We're in a pretty good spot here. I'm looking right in the eyes of Josh Hyde here. He's actually going through the water pretty nicely. Jeffrey looks actually a little bit softer. There's a little bit of a hole just below the gate. So yeah, actually the right seems quite nice here. Jeffrey, you can see the crew are really all the way inboard, and Hyde seems to just have a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, I think looking up the course, it looks like the marine layer is a little bit closer on the left-hand side. That's just meaning that that's losing a little bit of the pressure. So it looks a bit more consistent pressure out right. So both boats still on port. Both Josh Hyde gained a little bit here. If he were to tack, he would probably be slightly forwards. Peterson probably would be taking a duck. But I think Hyde wants to keep the right-hand side, so he's not going to give it up until he's confident that he's going to be in a good position to come across and there's no more right-hand shift or right-hand pressure for Peterson to duck and gain and come in on starboard at the top here. Although it looks like the groove that they're sailing in, it looks like Josh Hyde's in a slightly slower and higher groove and Peterson in a slightly lower and faster groove. So there's slightly less lateral separation, but Peterson's coming forward, so roughly neutral VMG right now.
Trevor, you guys got to get off the course or be in front of the racers. Don't be in front of the racers. You got to be off the course or more towards us, please. Or behind them.
I think Jeffrey's done pretty well out there, actually.
He's had a really good spot the last minute. Since Hyde got that gain, he's really wheeled him back in like on a bit of elastic.
Yep.
The elastic tightened and Peterson just pinged straight back in. Really good sailing by them. Now if they were to both tack over on starboard, I think Peterson would get a really strong lee bow tack. So I think he would make Hyde tack back off.
Okay,
as
well
he
there
wants
goes
to go
Peterson
away.
out again. So he must have thought he was, from this angle it's a little tough to do it. He must have thought he was sagging into him just a little bit there, despite what we said. But here comes Hyde now to stay in touch, as we call it, with the other boat. Jeffrey now will be hoping to get a little left shift as the marine layer comes a little closer. And that often happens, so let's see if it does.
Okay, let's go to this other match, which is now in the pre-start. This the Callahan Tapper. Tapper in 10, Callahan in mainsail number 1. They're right behind us here, on the media boat.
With 1 minute 30 to go, maybe 30 seconds from the committee boat, Tapper leading down into the jibe, just trying to really take this down low in the box so as he's able to kill time coming back up in.
Maddie, when you say box, you're meaning the starting box, and what is that?
It's essentially there's a box that is between the two ley lines of the pin end and the committee boat. If you come in there, you don't need to tack to cross the start line. So Tapper, the lower they are, the more upwind they have to do, and if you're upwind, Tapper can luff up. He can slow the game down a lot easier.
1 minute.
Well, I'll tell you, just to look up the course, we don't have to go there, but looking up the course, I think Peterson's getting exactly what I suggested. He's getting a little header as he sails into the marine layer, but boy, it's getting light up there again, as you pointed out, Tom.
Yeah. We're swapping back and forth, obviously, between these matches as Jeffrey Peterson is at the top mark in the lead.
It's interesting that Josh Hyde seemed to go over the ley line there when he was on port. He could have tacked over onto starboard. Peterson would have probably slammed a lee bow tack in, and that might have made Hyde do a double tack out, but he just let Peterson get up right onto that ley line, and he sailed more distance, giving Peterson the lead.
Yeah, I think there also was a bit of a lefty, as as one of your commentators was, of course, correct.
Now the start back here of the Callahan Tapper semifinal, first match.
So Tapper coming off the starboard end on port tack, Callahan coming off the pin end on starboard tack. Both boats with a free rein to go build up full speed off this line.
A split tack start, Maddie.
You can explain it in more words if you try. And so Tapper here going really fast on port. He's going to hope for a little right-hand shift and then get over on starboard. Callahan hoping for the opposite, left-hand shift so as he can come over onto port.
You know, another mark of the quality of this fleet is that we see a lot of even starts like that. We see a lot of split tack starts. It's very hard to get a slam dunk start in because it's very unusual for any of these sailors to make a big mistake, which is normally required.
Tapper goes for the tack over onto starboard there, comes out and trying to just build his speed back up and getting onto angle. He looks like he's in a decent amount of pressure there, all weight up on the side, whereas Callahan's got his crew down to leeward. Looks like a little bit more pressure for Tapper. He's got his boys hiking and all sitting on the side.
He's well ahead and to leeward of Hyde with a comfortable, 6-7 boat length lead?
Yep.
Yeah, they're about 150, 200 yards above the leeward gate here, with just one small jibe it needed, depending on which mark they want to go around. So Peterson in a good position, not getting his air affected, able to just keep on going fast forward mode, sailing the boat as fast as he can, and in his mind, hopefully extend.
So let's see if Justin Callahan can succeed out here to the left, as Jeffrey did.
Yeah, in the other match, on the Callahan Tapper match, they have one of the biggest splits we've seen out here all week.
Yep.
As
And here comes
Callahan,
Callahan
coming back now from the left on port tack.
Ooh, came to a complete stop.
Looks initially like Tapper's going to clear by about 2 boat lengths, but you know, there's so much gauge here. Any little shift, any little puff, there's a lot of time and separation for that to change.
Yeah, Justin Callahan just came out of that tack so slowly that it's almost worth going the extra. If you see some wind a boat length or two ahead of you to go into that than it is to, and overshoot a little, than it is to tack slowly like that.
Yeah, so Tapper coming over, trying to tack just on Justin's line here, which is also the ley line there. So I think that's why Justin didn't want to go too much further, because sailing over the ley line means you're not making any positive yardage to the mark. So Tapper with a really nice lead here, and he's going to look to do a good set, clean set, and then he's going to look to extend on this downwind.
Okay, so here's Jeffrey Peterson coming into the mark. Got around this end, the closest end to the beach, and we'll head out to the right side of the course, going to windward.
Yeah, Peterson doing a nice early douse there. Just he's got a 5, 6, 7, 8 boat length lead. You might as well make